For unique perspectives in Christian truth and one-of-a-kind Bible studies, please visit our website, truthhuntershow.com. Help us get around big tech censorship on YouTube, Facebook, and others by subscribing to our website. You can do so by entering your email address right here and click subscribe. Another option is click the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner, and you'll get a pop-up where you can enter your email address here and click subscribe. To support the work of the Truth Hunters, simply scroll down the page and you'll see ways that you can contribute by PayPal, Patreon, and Venmo. Thank you very much.
Now look, I get that a lot of people aren't sure that we're serious about this. I know that we don't exactly have the strongest reputation on privacy right now, to put it lightly.
Sarah Wynne Williams, a former Meta insider turned whistleblower, has accused Meta of aiding China's AI dominance by supplying its Llama model, built for $6 million, to advance Beijing's military ambitions. She claims Mark Zuckerberg's $1.3 trillion empire lied to Congress, betrayed U.S. security, and earned $18 billion in China while cozying up to Trump to deflect scrutiny.
My name is Sarah Wynne Williams, and I served as the Director of Global Public Policy at Facebook, now Meta, for nearly 7 years, starting in 2011. Throughout those 7 years, I saw Meta executives repeatedly undermine U.S. national security and betray American values. They did these things in secret to win favor with Beijing and build an $18 billion business in China.
Meta is bracing for a critical antitrust battle with the U.S. government, which could dismantle Zuckerberg's empire by forcing a divestiture of Instagram, generating $32 billion in U.S. ad revenue in 2024, nearly half of Meta's total. The FTC, led by Lina Khan, alleges Meta violated the Sherman Act by acquiring Instagram, WhatsApp, Onavo, and iGroove to crush competition and dominate online advertising, using Onavo's surveillance to neutralize threats like Snapchat.
Companies like Facebook, Meta, have enormous structural power that Mark Zuckerberg has spent, to your point, he has spent billions of dollars amassing. He has worked to destroy competitors who might break that power up, challenge that power in any way. He has used that power to stifle competition. He's used it to stifle views he doesn't like. This is a textbook example of what happens when a monopoly that has a political agenda, in this case a very hard-edged political agenda for years, when they use that monopoly in order to try to control other competitors and also to try to control the information that flows to the American people. Do I have that right, do you think?
Yes, and the political system itself, which has had previously been so supportive of him, and the work that he did to silence, again, not just in the election sphere, but those journalistic voices that were countering his preferred policy objective.
Trump-hating Judge James Boasberg has not signaled support for the FTC's case, despite Zuckerberg's alleged 2008 email favoring buying over competing. In 2022, as Facebook's popularity waned, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg floated a bold idea to boost the platform's cultural relevance, resetting users' friend networks and having them rebuild from scratch. Early signs of desperation.
Was your data included in the data sold to the malicious third parties?
Yes.
It was. No, are you willing to change your business model in the interest of protecting individual privacy?
Congresswoman, I'm not sure what that means.
Meta's acquisitions, projected to drive Instagram past 50% of its ad revenue by 2025, fuel claims it stifled competition. Meanwhile, Wynne Williams' revelations cast Meta as a traitor in the AI arms race.
We are engaged in a high-stakes AI arms race against China. And during my time at Meta, company executives lied about what they were doing with the Chinese Communist Party to employees, shareholders, Congress, and the American public. I sit before this committee today to set the record straight about these illegal and dangerous activities. Meta's dishonesty started with the betrayal of core American values. Mark Zuckerberg pledged himself a free speech champion, yet I witnessed Meta work hand in glove with the Chinese Communist Party to construct and test custom-built censorship tools that silenced and censored their critics. When Beijing demanded that Facebook delete the account of a prominent Chinese dissident living on American soil, they did it. And then lied to Congress when asked about the incident in a Senate hearing.
Zuckerberg prioritized global power over U.S. interests. Something has got to give. John Baum reporting for InfoWars.
All right, hello and welcome. It is your host, Doug Diamond, here for the Diamond Report Live. We are going full on the Star Wars theme tonight. So yes, May the 4th be with you. Yes, I know it's almost over, but I thought we would kind of play it up a little bit. And yes, we have our desolate planet landscape here. This is where I'm actually broadcasting from. You see the antennas on the tops of the towers there. So yes, hello and welcome. You have reached the Diamond Report Live. It's 10:07 p.m. on May the 4th, 2025. Hope you guys have had a good week since we were last together. I don't know where that week went, but it has disappeared. Anyways, let's take a look at the news. The Facebook video we just watched was, I thought, very, very enlightening, and yet it's not all that surprising, is it? We know that Zuckerberg has sold everyone and their data down the river to the CCP, the Communist Chinese Party. And he is a proud member, probably a badge-wearing member of the CCP, I would guess. Facebook is one of the platforms that I have been the most censored on over the years. I'm sure many of you guys have just as much as I have. So anyway, yes, let's take a look at the news, and let's get the video capture turned on here so we can see what's going on. And first off and foremost, if you saw the very beginning of the show, you saw the new Truth Hunters promo I put together a few days ago, and I wanted to bring your attention to this again. Yes, my good friend Lynn Leoz and I have built this website, Truth Hunters. It's truthhuntersshow.com, and it mentions it in that promo that we just watched. So that is something that we would love for you to go there and subscribe. It's totally free. You just drop your email address in right there on the email address blank, or you click the subscribe button over there. I think you get a pop-up when you visit for the first time anyway. So any of those cases, you can drop your email address in there, and that will help you stay in touch with what both she and I are doing as far as what we're putting out there. I'm putting some content on there. She's putting pretty much all of her content on there, and I'm going to be adding things as we go as well. Most of my content at this point is videos, just for lack of time. We'll do clips of this show and then other videos. So anyways, yeah, the Truth Hunters Show is a great website we put together. We're still kind of building it out a little bit, but feel free to subscribe there. We are both heavily censored on YouTube. She probably more than I, actually. And we'd love to have you there. And then that way, when you're there, you will receive an email from us whenever we post something new. So when we post something to the site, it will blast out an email to you so that you know it's there and can go look at it at your leisure. Anyway, enough on that. That is the Truth Hunters Show, truthhuntersshow.com, so feel free to look at that. Let's take a look at the news. We've got Hal Turner Radio Show pulled up. The one front and center here that I was just going to kind of take a look at, India gets a tap on its shoulder from China regarding Pakistan. We mentioned the whole Pakistan and India thing that was unfolding last week. I don't think that situation has gotten any better. It says with major military buildups by both India and Pakistan for the past 2 weeks after a terrorist attack blamed on Pakistan slaughtered 26 Indian citizens in Kashmir, India just got a tap on the shoulder from China. China began a large live-fire military exercise, which just so happens to be taking place in the Himalayas near the Indian border. And, of course, China backs Pakistan, not India so much. So let's play this video just while I'm talking here. Here is video released by China's People's Liberation Army showing parts of the exercise today. You can see it's in high definition here. So this is the tap on the shoulder that India got, the little exercise they're doing right on their border. Pakistan versus India, an actual shooting war between Pakistan and India would likely not bode well for Pakistan, which is outnumbered, outgunned, out-tanked, out-artilleried, and so on. But the real disastrous information about Pakistan came out today. And this is dated, today, actually May 4th. Pakistan has secretly been arming Ukraine and has so depleted its own inventory of 155 millimeter artillery shells that Pakistan now only has, ready for this, 4 days worth of artillery shells if a full-scale war breaks out. 4 days. The major league downside to all this is that if they run out of artillery shells, Pakistan would more likely be forced into using its nuclear arms. Perhaps that is why China is making its presence known. Better to avoid a shooting war before it starts than try to limit it once it does start. So, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see where it goes, for sure. A lot of people are worried about that situation, and no one really knows. All right, and then this one as well from Hal's site, updated earlier this morning. A Yemenis missile hits the Ben Gurion airport in Tel Aviv, Israel. This morning, a ballistic missile fired by the Houthis struck the Ben Gurion airport in Israel. A crater 25 meters deep was made by the impact and detonation, indicating a massive explosion and indicating that the missile was flying at tremendous speed. This region is one of the most highly protected areas on the planet, yet the missile got through. Attempts were made by Israel to shoot down the missile with both the Israeli Arrow and the U.S.-supplied THAAD system, but both systems missed the incoming missile. At present, it is not known what building within the airport may have been the final target. The missile landed and detonated on a roadway at the airport. While injuries and deaths seem unlikely, there is a single report of an injury from the impact. The Houthis in Yemen have been firing missiles at Israel over the genocide being carried out by the Israeli government in Gaza. Yemen says they will continue to fire missiles into Israel and attack ships on the Red Sea traveling to or from Israel as a sort of naval blockade of Israel until the genocide stops. The U.S. has been attacking Yemen with the intention of bringing attacks on ships to a halt, but the U.S. effort has not achieved its goal. Then here is a video clip of the Al Jazeera news coverage of this missile. Then updated earlier this morning, Israeli Army radio, following today's attack on Ben Gurion, Israel is no longer bound by any restrictions and will respond with extreme force. And here's a guy telling us all about it, apparently. Let's see what he says.
To the
Yeah, so he just happened to be rolling the film there whenever the bomb went off. That's what it was. So, yeah, very interesting. Life in Israel, huh? Yeah, not good, but I wanted to mention that just because it's getting kind of close. You know, lots of people around the airport there, and it's pretty amazing that the missile even got through, which is pretty wild. And then one more from House site. Widespread unrest in China over U.S. tariff layoffs, unpaid wages, and massive protests. Widespread unrest has erupted across China as Trump's steep tariffs devastate the nation's export-driven economy, meaning China, triggering factory closures, unpaid wages, and massive protests by workers. The Daily Caller has reported, and we're going to look at that as well. Riots and mass protests are spreading across China as economic fallout from Trump's tariffs pushes the nation's manufacturing sector to the brink, shuttering factories and leaving millions of workers without pay. From industrial zones near Shanghai to the remote edges of Inner Mongolia, workers have taken to the streets, demanding back pay and denouncing mass layoffs. The unrest comes amid a sharp drop in Chinese export orders. The Wall Street Journal reports that Huang Deming, a garment exporter in southern China, has already laid off 30% of its staff after losing 3 U.S. clients. And then a textile factory manager described cutthroat conditions in the domestic market. To be frank, personally speaking, all we can do is go out and look for new opportunities, they said to the Journal. The labor unrest mirrors the protests in 2022 during President Xi's strict COVID lockdowns. At the time, government forces suppressed demonstrations through violent crackdowns. Analysts expect similar responses now as economic instability threatens the regime's control. So, and then, yes, he mentions the Daily Caller. This is the article that I found on that. China erupts. Furious workers riot as factories collapse under Trump's tariffs. So the Democrat Party would have you believe, and also the U.S. mainstream media would have you believe that it's only affecting Americans. Well, that is not exactly the case. Workers throughout China are flooding the streets in revolt as Trump's tariffs slam the fragile Chinese export economy. From the cramped streets of Sichuan in the southwest to the cold outskirts of Inner Mongolia in the northeast, furious workers are demanding back pay and protesting mass layoffs at factories that have shuttered under the pressure from Trump's tariffs. Outside a LED manufacturing plant near Shanghai, thousands of unpaid workers shouted furiously at company managers over wages that haven't been paid since January. Would you be able to survive if you hadn't been paid since January? In central China's Dao County, a similar scene unfolded outside a sporting goods store after the company abruptly shut down last week without paying employees. Northeast city of Tongliao, construction workers climbed onto rooftops and threatened to jump if their wages were not paid. Man, that's pretty serious business there. Wow. So yeah, there's I think there's some video here somewhere. Perhaps some of these links. I saw a video earlier a few days ago, but I'm not sure where that was. Anyway, yeah, it's of course it's all in Chinese, but it is very interesting to see what's going on over there. And then also this one from the Daily Caller that I found, which was another sort of bizarre story. Plane makes emergency landing at iconic golf course. I saw the picture here, which is a spray plane, clearly visible here. You can see the geoengineering streaks right behind it. And I'm like, well, surely that did not land on an iconic golf course. And lo and behold, I was right. No, it wasn't that. It was a Cessna. But still, it's pretty interesting to see what happened here. Let's watch this. A small aircraft made an unexpected landing at one of the most exclusive golf courses in L.A. Friday afternoon after failing to complete a safe landing at Santa Monica Airport. Plane had 3 people on it. It was forced to make an emergency landing on the fairways of Riviera Country Club.
I'm moving. I'm not fucking. I'm not fucking. Are they okay? Yeah.
Well, excuse the language there. That wasn't my video, obviously. But yeah, everybody survived and just landed right in the middle of the golf course. So yet another airplane mishap. I think we report on multiple mishaps every week with different airplanes. Luckily, this one ended up just fine. But more weirdness with airplanes. Very strange. Need to know .news. Canada's new prime minister, yes, he's been elected just like we all thought he would be. Mark Carney is pro-CBDC, pro-transgender for kids, and pro-climate tyranny. Which we knew that. That's part of the reason he was elected, wasn't it? Globalist Mark Carney served as the governor of the Bank of Canada from 2008 to 13, followed by a 7-year stint as the governor of the Bank of England from 2013 to 2020. Canadian journalist Dan Dix reported that while Carney was in England, his biological daughter enrolled in the Tavistock gender clinic that promoted puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones for minors. Tavistock has been shut down due to causing harm. Carney and his wife have also been photographed with the Jeffrey Epstein affiliate Ghislaine Maxwell. James Corbett did a deep dive on Carney and reported that he is a Bilderberg elitist and technocracy enthusiast who supports CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. Carney is also an advocate of using phony climate change to create carbon markets and to grab power. He was involved in advising Justin Trudeau during the trucker protest over mandatory... He influenced former PM Justin Tampon Trudeau's decision to invoke the controversial Emergencies Act that shut down the Freedom Convoy protests in February of 2022 that involved freezing funds. So that was one of his ideas. A researcher made a future timeline of policies that Carney will enact if he is not challenged. So this is the Dan Dix report right here. He does a really good job. We've played some of his videos on this show before. But this is on his Press for Truth channel on BitChute. So feel free to have a look at that if you guys want. But yes, we all knew that Carney would most likely be elected there. And indeed he was. Probably also, I would just a guess, but say that he is another one of many right-hand men of Sir King Charles, is my guess, because Canada, of course, is a British Commonwealth country. And Carney himself has said he is a UK citizen, which means not really Canadian citizen. I don't know if that's legal or not, but anyway, his allegiance, I think, sounds like, is to the British Royal Crown, from what he said. So there you go. What can you do? Anyway, that is a need-to-know.news article. Then this one, too. Former Congressman Norm Coleman declares the masters of the universe are the JOOSs. I suppose I better start watching what I say, because there is now a bill in Congress that we're going to take a look at here in just a minute. But anyway, let's see what this says. Former U.S. Senator Norm Coleman declared that the masters of the universe are Jews at a major Zionist lobby event in Jerusalem on April 27th. Coleman pointed to various major technology firms founded by Jews, suggesting the shared religion of the company's creators should translate into a greater zeal for censoring criticism of Israel and its war on Gaza. He said a majority of Gen Z have an unfavorable impression of Israel. And my friends, I think the reason for that is that we're losing the digital war. They're getting their information from TikTok, and we're losing that war. That would be because they're going straight to the actual truth. Not that TikTok is, but the people that are on TikTok do. Some of them do report what's actually going on and say the truth. And to continue here, and when you think about it, the masters of the universe are Jews. We've got Altman at OpenAI. We've got Zuckerberg at Facebook. We've got Sergey Brin at Google. We've got a group across the board. And then WhatsApp founder as well, Jan Koum. And then he says, it's us. So he's all about it. So he's not being critical here. He is saying, it's us. We own everything. So there you go. And he's not lying, is he? Anyway, this article is on needtoknow.news. Got several from that site today. And then mass blackouts hit Spain just days after the nation uses only 100% renewable energy. So this was fully explained as far as what happened with this whole thing. Really well, I think. Really well explained by Hal Turner on his radio show last week. I forget which day it was, but he explained what happened. And the bottom line is, the way it all unfolded all happened in 5 seconds. It all came to a screeching halt in 5 seconds. I don't know if this talks about this, but let's take a look at the blurb here on the page. On April 16th, Spain, for the first time ever, was able to meet the country's energy needs by powering its nationwide grid with 100%, quote, clean renewable power, including unreliable wind, solar, and hydroelectric energy. A major power grid collapse in Europe on April 28th, sparking blackouts across Spain, Portugal, and parts of France. Yeah, it was sort of a cascading effect. A state of emergency was declared in Spain and Portugal, and tens of millions of people, businesses, and major transportation hubs were thrown into chaos. Most of the power was restored the next day. Yeah, because they probably had to switch back on the carbon-based systems, I'm guessing. An analysis indicated that the cause of the shutdown was due to Spain running its grid with very little dispatched spinning generation, also called inertia. And the power plants were not able to quickly adjust their output to keep the grid stable. So again, for a full explanation of exactly what happened here, I think Hal did a really good job on his radio show last week. If you happen to be a subscriber on his site, you can access those archives. I heard that show earlier today just by happenstance, and I thought it really explained well. My first instinct on this was that perhaps it was a cyber attack. But actually, no, that's not what happened at all. It's because they went 100% quote green, meaning trying to rely on these renewable sources, which are non-renewable actually, and then the grid was not able to sustain the power needs, so therefore it collapsed. So anyway, that is on this needtoknow.news site as well, if you want to take a look at that. And then this one as well from RFK Jr. calls out the Pentagon chemtrail geoengineering program and points to DARPA. So this is something that we mentioned last week, I believe, but let's take a look at this. RFK Jr. appeared on the Dr. Phil show and was asked by an audience member how to stop the stratospheric aerosol injections that are continuously peppering us every day. Kennedy responded by saying that this is not happening in my agency. We don't do that. It's done, we think, by DARPA, and a lot of it now is coming out of the jet fuel. Those materials are put in jet fuel. I'm going to do everything in my power to stop it. We're bringing on somebody who's going to think only about that, find out who's doing that, and hold them accountable. So, and then he goes on to talk about DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, is a U.S. government agency responsible for developing emerging technologies for military use, established in 1958 in response to the Soviet Union's launch of Sputnik. It is known for innovations that have significantly influenced both military and civilian technology, including the internet, GPS, Boston Dynamics robots, cyborg insects, computer graphical user interface, and mouse, onion routing, which is Tor, human universal load carrier exoskeleton, Siri, and HARP. So that's what is some of the DARPA technology pieces that are available out there. But yes, the internet is definitely part of that. It goes way back to even before DARPA, actually. So that is, I think that's interesting. Whether or not DARPA is actually behind it, I sort of doubt it. They may have helped, start the whole process as far as the scientific research and stuff, possibly, but it goes back a long ways. Just on geoengineeringwatch.org, we've got on that site, we have a list of patents that goes back to the late 1800s. So, DARPA was not around then. So I don't know. I do know that they could have perfected it. It's very possible, but I don't think they would be running it anymore. It seems to me like it'd be more the Pentagon or some sort of military agency running it now. But he's saying that the HHS is not currently running the chemtrail program, which he's probably right about that. But what he's wrong about, I think, is that it's added to the jet fuel. Right here, those materials are put in jet fuel. And I can see where he would say that. However, there are spray nozzles clearly visible on these planes, as many of you guys know. And you cannot just turn on and off the jet fuel. Now, the video that I don't have queued up, but that I did hear yesterday was, many of you guys know Kristen Megan, who is a geoengineering whistleblower. She was former military. She was on with Harrison Smith on the War Room when he was hosting the War Room on Friday. And she was there in studio with him, and they talked about this and mentioned GeoWatch several times, geoengineeringwatch.org and Dane. And she said that in her experience working directly with these systems, that it couldn't possibly be in the jet fuel, because the jet fuel has to, by law, stay pure, and to have all of these different, chemicals mixed into the jet fuel would cause the planes to burn up, basically. So I tend to think that she's probably right about that. So that's one of the I would say, semi-false narratives that's being put out there, that it's in the jet fuel. I think it's primarily these tankers that are spraying, and KC-135s and all these different tankers that are spraying the horizon to horizon trails. And many of you guys have seen the footage where they're shutting them off in midstream, turning them off. You have giant lapses of no trails, and then they switch them back on. So it's very possible that they could be automated, and maybe there's no actual human flying some of those planes, although many of them probably do have humans as well. So who knows? They could be being flown from the ground, but I do think that they are mostly the tankers, not necessarily put in jet fuel. So I just wanted to mention that. But it's good that this is coming out. It's good that RFK Jr. is talking about it. Whether or not they can actually shut this down, I have no idea. I sort of have my doubts, but at least he's bringing attention to it. We're going to stop this crime, he's saying here on his Twitter account. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. I don't know. Let's see what you guys are saying here. Of course, it is not in the jet fuel. It would corrupt the fuel. That is ridiculous, Kathy says. Yeah, and that's what Kristen Megan was saying. That was her job, was to make sure that those systems, not the fuel systems, but that the chemicals didn't infect different systems that she was involved in, and she said that it would have. RFK knows this. He is lying, Kathy says. I don't know. He may know that. That is one of those narratives that Dane's never really said that. He's only talked about the tankers and the horizon to horizon. They have the horizon to horizon trails and so forth. So I don't think that it's in the fuel at all. Could you imagine aluminum in jet fuel? Hello. Yeah, I know. It seems like it would be highly flammable, doesn't it? Yeah, anyway, so that is a narrative that's out there that I think is kind of, unfortunately, taking people down the wrong track. But just keep in mind that the truth that I think is going on is all on geoengineeringwatch.org. And I say that because I help with the website and know Dane personally. I have known him for many, many years at this point, and that is his one mission in this world from the time he gets up to the time he goes to bed at night, whenever that is, or probably early in the morning most days, actually. That's what he does, and he knows his stuff for sure. So, and he's been interviewed by RFK Jr., and they talked about some of this stuff, although the jet fuel aspect of it, I don't know if they talked about that or not. Anyways, something to keep your eye on for sure. Now, this one as well, this is kind of more of the proof that we are definitely in the end times. I'll be probably saying that a lot tonight. California, Newsom's law allowed a non-citizen on the police force, but guess what? He's charged with raping a woman with a mental disorder. He's real sad about it too. California Democrat Governor Newsom signed a bill in 2022 that allowed non-citizens to become police officers if they have a green card, a visa, or a permanent residency. Officer Felipe Gomez, a 35-year-old Brazilian national, was hired by the Belmont Police Department in the Bay Area. Gomez is in the U.S. on a work permit that allows him, a non-citizen, to work in the United States during the period listed on the card, but does not allow the person to travel or live permanently in the United States. Police power bestows the right to carry a gun and the authority to shoot people under certain circumstances. A critic noted that the California law is controversial because newly arrived immigrants have a lot to learn about our system of justice and civil rights. Yes, but that doesn't matter to Newsom, does it? Governor Newsom. Gomez was reportedly charged under Penal Code 261 that concerns knowingly having sexual intercourse with an individual incapable of giving consent because of a mental disorder or developmental or physical disability. He was fired the day after he was arrested, so that's at least something, I guess. He was previously arrested for domestic violence, so he's got quite the record here already. But of course, he's a vaunted illegal, and you just have to bend over and let him have his way, I guess. So apparently he's able to do that. Anyway, that is story on needtoknow.news, and not too surprising, is it? That's California for you, for sure. And then one more from that site. Idaho expands death penalty to child predators. The state of Idaho recently passed a bill that was signed into law that would expand the death penalty to pedophiles if the crime involving lewd conduct to the child under the age of 12 are proven in a trial. In the past 2 years, both Tennessee and Florida have passed death penalty laws involving child rape cases. Legal challenges are expected as the U.S. Supreme Court ruled out the death sentence for child rape in a 5-4 decision in 2008. The justices concluded that it was not a proportional punishment for the rape of a child. No, I guess that's okay according to them. And that it violated the Eighth Amendment's ban on cruel and unusual punishment. So says the Supreme Court. Yeah, so it says Bill HB 380 now grants a judge or jury the ability to factor in the death penalty when crimes involving lewd conduct to a child under the age of 12 are proven in a trial. State law initially only allowed the death penalty in first-degree murder cases with aggravating circumstances. So that is interesting. That is happening in Idaho. So we'll see where it goes. Anyway, that one's on needtoknow.news. Then technocracy.news. The 3 articles I've pulled up from here. Technocracy, the common good utopia, ? And it says not. Technocrats spit at populist whims, even though they are writing the populist movements with spurs to take over the world, especially in America. When, as, and if the populists get wind of this, there will be a major rebellion in the ranks. There is no common good for humanity, only the scourge of the whip of scientific dictatorship. So that's one of the top articles on the site right now. Sam Altman launches dystopian iris scanning orb in the U.S. Didn't that happen a year or two ago? Sam Altman's creepy iris scanning orbs have come to the United States. His goal is to scan every eyeball on Earth. Already there are 160 countries around the world that are signing up. Over 170,000 people per week. Altman's company changed its name to World.org to offer a comprehensive ecosystem of World ID, World App, World Chain, and World Coin. And then it says in parentheses, and World Social. Yes. Meaning world socialism, I guess. Yeah, that is very strange, but that was already happening. I guess it's just now coming to the U.S. It's possibly been going on all this time in other countries, but this is not good. Iris scanning orb. So something to watch out for. Of course, Sam Altman is the guy who founded the whole ChatGPT thing. So we'll have to see where that goes. That's not looking too good, is it? The technocracy movement in the 1930s wanted to merge the U.S., Canada, and Greenland. Even the left-of-center conversation, which I guess is a publication, gets more about technocracy than the collective MAGA movement does. Today's technocrats are still chasing the dream that a scientifically planned economy could ensure abundance, stability, and fairness. Fairness for technocrats, that is, and the rest is a mirage. For the rest of us, it's neo-feudalism, aka scientific dictatorship. So that's the third article that's available here on this site. And then this just came out yesterday. Warren Buffett announces that he's stepping down as Berkshire Hathaway's CEO. After 55 years, Warren Buffett is stepping down from Berkshire Hathaway, announcing his departure on Saturday. The 94-year-old multi-billionaire dropped the bombshell during the conclusion of his remarks at his annual shareholder meeting in Omaha, noting that he will resign at the end of the year, upon which Greg Abel will succeed him after being groomed for the role since 2021. He told the audience, tomorrow we're having a board meeting of Berkshire, and we have 11 directors. 2 of the directors who are my children, he says, Howie and Susie, know of what I'm talking about there. The rest of them, this will come as news. But I think the time has arrived where Greg should become the chief executive officer of the company at the year end. Buffett plans to keep his $160 billion in shares and, quote, hang around and be helpful with the conglomerate which he bought as a textile mill in 1965, explaining that he thinks the prospects of Berkshire will be better under Abel. Earlier in his speech, Buffett reasoned that trade should not be a weapon, adding that the U.S. should be looking to trade with the rest of the world. We should be doing what we do best, and they should be doing what they do best. Although Buffett did not directly mention Trump, he denounced the global trade war that has resulted in the administration's tariffs and policies. Trump has announced major tariffs in every country around the world before pausing them for 90 days to pursue separate trade deals with the nation. So I think this is supposed to say with certain nations. But yeah, what he doesn't mention here is that all of these same countries already have tariffs on all of our stuff. So it's okay when they do it, just not when the U.S. does it. So anyway, that's on deadline.com. Never heard of that site. Interesting, though, that he'll be stepping down. Laura Loomer, drops juicy bombshell on activist judge who is targeting Trump's agenda. Yeah, this is kind of interesting. If you didn't know about this judge here, California U.S. District Court Judge Jennifer Thurston, a 2021 Biden appointee, who just blocked the Trump administration from arresting illegals unless they have a formal warrant. Yes, this is a wildly dangerous ruling all by itself, but it gets worse. Laura Loomer went digging around and found some damning videos from the judge's husband that should make Judge Thurston step aside. So this is Loomer's post, or at least part of it. The husband of California U.S. District Court Judge Jennifer Thurston, the judge who just ruled that President Trump's administration can't arrest any more illegal aliens unless they have a warrant for their arrest, is a multi-family real estate broker. This is the husband. The judge's husband is a multi-family real estate broker in California who caters to illegal aliens and immigrant community, and makes Instagram videos about how Donald Trump's mass deportations and immigration policies are bad for multi-family real estate brokers and investors. Judge Thurston was appointed by Joe Biden in 2021. This is a massive conflict of interest that casts doubt on Judge Thurston's April 29th issuance of a preliminary injunction forbidding the U.S. Border Patrol from conducting warrantless immigration stops throughout the wide swath of California. This injunction applies to Kern County, California, including Bakersfield, where Judge Thurston's husband is in business as a multi-family real estate broker. But of course, she's completely impartial. Yes. No, I mean, obviously that's what's going on here. Here's the one of the videos here from Laura Loomer. So that's the husband, I guess. But you know, if he's if the judge here is got a vested interest in it, in that she's making money through this whole system through her husband, then it makes sense to me that she would rule the way she would. And of course, she's a Democrat activist judge, so she's not stepping down. She's not going anywhere. And in fact, the press will be defending everything she does. So anyways, interesting though to know about the old judge's husband there. Pretty wild. FBI agents who took a knee for George Floyd just got a big surprise. Do you guys know about this? The FBI isn't supposed to be some goofy political theater group or a PR firm for the latest left-wing movement. It's a law enforcement agency and is tasked with one duty: protecting the Constitution, maintaining law and order, and staying neutral in times of civil unrest. Is this too much to ask? Apparently, as we found out during the deadly summer of love in 2020, when the country was reeling from riots, arson, and widespread violence following the death of career criminal George Floyd, a group of FBI agents decided their job wasn't to stand firm or for justice, it was to take a knee to the BLM. Remember that photo of the FBI agents taking a knee during the George Floyd protests? In case you don't, here is that infamous photo. There they are. They all have most of them have their masks on, like good little whatevers. These were the same deadly and violent protests that set U.S. cities ablaze and turned cops into public enemy number one, but that kneeling moment became symbolic of a much larger problem inside the Bureau. The steady shift toward a woke mindset that is destroying the FBI's purpose and reputation. The FBI's approval has been in free fall for years now. Americans don't trust their top law enforcement agency, and that's a big problem. Hopefully, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino in the mix now will start turning the tide. Says the FBI has reassigned several agents who were photographed kneeling with demonstrators during a 2020 protest of the police killing of Floyd. The reassignments, viewed as demotions by many inside the FBI, come nearly 5 years after the episode that ignited controversy in the Bureau. It wasn't a random move. It's part of a bigger effort to wipe out the woke mind virus that's infected the Bureau. The targeting of these kneelers is part of a broader effort by the new FBI leaders to make good on promises to root out what Trump has called woke and politicized elements inside the agency. So I was looking to see if they were actually fired. They were demoted. You would have thought they would have fired them, but yeah. Taking these stunts are more dangerous than they seem. At first glance, they might look like some cringeworthy photo ops, but in reality, they legitimize the radical left-wing movement built on lies, division, and violence. And this isn't new behavior from the FBI. They've been on a political tangent for years. We recently uncovered a story about how they targeted a wellness company during the Me Too era, another leftist crusade after they were caught using fake evidence, witness tampering, and biased judges, all to sell a narrative and paint themselves as champions of social justice instead of actual law enforcement. Yeah, so anyway, there's a little bit more here, and then a few video clips embedded as well. I was hoping it was going to say that they fired these people, but nope, they just demoted them. But anyway, still kind of a surprise, but it took them 5 years. Of course, that was only because of the new administration. Otherwise, nothing would have ever happened. And then this one also on Revolver, a Fed whistleblower. They gave us coloring books, and I realized, holy shiite, everybody's gay. Are you old enough to remember when our government operated like a serious institution? Say what you want about our sketchy past, but at the very least, U.S. government once protected strength, confidence, and some semblance of order. But fast forward to today, and now we've got grown federal agents participating in something called a color wall, literally coloring to cope with the pressures of their job. Sadly, we're not joking. This was the state of law enforcement and government under the Biden regime. Safe spaces, therapy speak, and grown men coloring like it's art class at recess. Oh, and everybody's also gay. A recent hidden camera interview with a current DHS employee just blew the lid off of something many had already suspected. The U.S. government has been infiltrated by a radical, emotionally chaotic homosexual culture. According to this makeshift whistleblower, the entire system is infested by agents in toxic relationships, drama, weak-minded men, and an overwhelming lesbian and gay presence that isn't just tolerated, it's pretty much the entire operating system at this point. The way it sounds, the agent badge should probably come with a juice box and a pronoun. But honestly, it isn't just about the DHS, it's a much bigger mentality that's affected everything. The left has mainstreamed this childish, emotionally dependent worldview. It's a movement that treats normal, everyday discomfort as trauma, disagreements as violence, and therapy as a lifestyle. This is a culture that worships safety at the expense of strength and independence. It's a twisted lifestyle built around a group therapy instead of grit, toughing it out, and independence. It's more about group coddling than individualism. Yeah. So then Viva Frei, I guess, is got a tweet here embedded, and there's more here on this story. But yes, this is all something that we already know about, but interesting that the whistleblower from the DHS is stating what we already know, isn't it? All right, and then, this was a big story, I guess, a couple days ago, the whole Trump AI picture of himself dressed as the Pope. So I thought we would look at this. This is the Yahoo article that I pulled up, but there's another article that will dig into it a little bit more. It says, Trump posts AI picture of himself dressed as Pope. Not content with being the leader of the free world, Donald Trump has again jokingly suggested that he would also like to be the next Pope. On Friday evening, the U.S. president published a spoof AI-generated photograph of himself dressed in papal regalia on his Truth Social platform. Yeah, I'm sort of beginning to think he does this because he thinks no one's looking at it. No, I'm just joking. He's doing it to troll people. The picture depicted the president draped in white robes, wearing a gold crucifix pendant and a mitre hat, while pointing his right index finger to the sky. It comes days ahead of the conclave, where cardinals at the Vatican will elect the successor of Pope Francis, who died on April 21. It also follows a joke made by Mr. Trump on Tuesday. When asked who he would like to see succeed Pope Francis, he said, "I'd like to be Pope. That would be my number one choice." He was joking. The president went on to say he did not have a preference for Francis's successor, but he added, "We have a cardinal that happens to be out of place called New York, who is very good," in comments thought to refer to Timothy Dolan, the Archbishop of New York. So this says Trump's picture, which was published without a caption, quickly went viral. But not everyone saw the funny side. Then all these people started getting all offended by it, of course. So anyway, let's take a look at what Leo Zagami has to say about this whole thing. Yeah, it is a weird thing to do. I agree. But it's Trump. It's his ego. But I don't think it makes him evil. I just think that, unfortunately, he knows how to make AI-generated photos, and he probably thought it was funny. And again, he's trolling people. The real reason Trump shared an AI image of himself as Pope to challenge the upcoming conclave rigged by the Jesuits and the CCP. So Leo's digging into it a little bit more here, and this could be more what's going on. I don't know. Donald Trump posted a AI-generated photo of himself dressed as Pope on social media, and a week after he attended Pope Francis's funeral, sparking outrage among some Catholics who have not yet understood the gravity of what is happening in the upcoming conclave, which Leo says he explained in his latest book. Says, this time the successor of Pope Francis was decided before the conclave in the Jesuit headquarters of Borgo Santo Spirito, where the politics of the Church of Rome have been increasingly determined since Vatican II. As I explained in my previous article, the Chinese Communist Party's push for Cardinal Louis Tegel, we mentioned that last week, if you guys were here, which may change if they decide to usher in an African pope. Africa has been crucial to China's foreign policy since the end of the Chinese Civil War in 1947. China supported several African liberation movements during the Cold War, and every year since 1951, the foreign minister of the People's Republic of China visited an African country, which included establishing an international department to manage relations with foreign communist parties. Early interactions such as 1955 Bandung Conference aimed to gain recognition for the People's Republic of China and limit Soviet influence, especially in Cold War era. The CPC's approach evolved, including material support, training programs, and more recently, party-to-party exchanges focused on leadership and governance. China-Africa relations are the bedrock of China's foreign policy, so it will make sense if they eventually decide to support Cardinal Peter Turkson or another African rather than Cardinal Luis Antonio Tegel. But money talks and you-know-what walks, as the saying goes. Trump and his administration know very well that currently the CCP is investing billions to obtain their papal choice in the conclave, which opens May 7th, so this week. Things were different in the past, with the United States and Freemasonry controlling all the papal elections since 1958, so now Trump is simply sending a message to his biggest enemies. So that's what he's saying here. That's what Leo's saying. And he's talking about how he explains some of this in his book, which I'm not here to promote his book. I'm just reading what he wrote here. All the details about the Jesuit secret societies that tried to recruit him in Fordham are revealed for the first time in Volume 12. So this is, I guess, one of his books. Since then, Trump has been the biggest enemy of the infamous Society of Jesus, as I showed in my new book, with plenty of credible evidence. Universities indoctrinate progressive values in America's youth with the criminal immigration policies of the Democrat Party and the leftist politics on transgenderism, the LGBT movement, and hostility in the Jesuit-created European Union, China's globalization and the rise of Shanghai, and the ultimate control of technocracy and the AI. In the end, Trump's choice to dress as Pope to challenge all of this is a great move that should not spark outrage among true Catholics who would like something different from the inevitable woke Pope that Bergoglio's rigged conclave will produce. I mentioned that last week, that Francis put in place a lot of his own cardinals who he knew would vote for someone else more like him, like Francis. So that's why I'm saying, just based on what Leo Zagami has said alone, I don't think that there's any chance there's going to be a conservative next pope, like Pope John Paul II. I think it's going to be somebody that's more friendly to the World Enslavement Forum and that line of thinking. So perhaps even someone that you could call the biblical false prophet. I don't know. Anyway, there's quite an article here, including some more video and things like that on Leo's website. It's actually right on his homepage right now if you want to check it out. But it's leozagami.com. Anyway, that was kind of long, but thought it was worth mentioning. Politico article here. Kiev can't guarantee safety of foreign leaders on May 9th in Moscow, Zelensky says. They can't guarantee the safety of the foreign leaders coming in on May 9th to Moscow. President Xi is among the leaders set to attend the Victory Day parade in Moscow. I thought it was funny. I highlighted this because it's calling him Ukrainian President Zelensky, which I guess that's what everybody's calling him, but technically he's not. He hasn't been for the last year because he's unelected at this point. He's a dictator. Zelensky said his government could not guarantee the safety of foreign delegations visiting Moscow to attend the Victory Day parade next Friday, marking the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. Our position is very simple. For all countries traveling to Russia on May 9th, we cannot be held responsible for what happens on the territory of the Russian Federation. I wonder if they have plans. Sounds kind of like it, doesn't it? They provide you with the security, therefore we won't give you any guarantees. Because we don't know what Russia will do these days. Yes, they're the loose cannon. Not Zelensky, not the Nazis, literally running Ukraine. Anyway, I'm looking to see who else is going to be there. Xi Jinping, Brazilian President Da Silva, so Lula will be there, are among the leaders set to attend the celebrations to commemorate the victory of the Soviet Union and its allies over Nazi Germany. Well, that's true. That is direct descendants to the people literally running Ukraine now. Nazi Germany. That's where they came from. On May 9th in Moscow, Medvedev, deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council and the country's former president, called Zelensky's statement a verbal provocation in a post on his Telegram channel. Yeah, it does sound like it. So, anyway. So I don't know if Zelensky knows something's going to happen or he's just hoping something will happen, but it doesn't look too good. We'll have to keep our eye on that. That's scheduled for the 9th, so that would be what, Friday coming up? Yeah, and of course they're quite a few hours ahead of us, so we'll see what happens. I thought this was good news, not something you really hear about at all, really, even in the alt media, but I came across this earlier today. This is on a Substack, Declassified with Julie Kelly is the name of it. Some justice for Ashley Babbitt, finally. It appears the Trump Department of Justice has reached an agreement in the wrongful death lawsuit related to the killing of the unarmed Trump supporter on January 6, 2021. There she is here. The Department of Justice today confirmed the settlement in principle has been reached in the $30 million wrongful death lawsuit filed on behalf of the estate of Ashley Babbitt, who was killed by a police officer inside the Capitol on January 6, 2021. Terms of the settlement have not been disclosed during a hearing today before D.C. Judge Anna Reyes. Let me see when today is. This is dated May 2nd, so this was Friday. Both sides indicated that it could be at least a month before the agreement is finalized and made public. Okay, so it's forthcoming, I guess. In January 2024, Judicial Watch, representing Babbitt's widower, Aaron, filed a complaint under the Federal Tort Claims Act, accusing the government of causing personal death and injury caused by the negligent or wrongful acts or omissions of one or more employees of the federal government. Which, this is the backstory. You guys know what happened. So anyway, it's looking like this is going to be wrapped up. President Trump has remained a big supporter of Babbitt, frequently raising her name during campaign rallies and interviews. According to reports, Trump called Mickey Whithoft, Ashley's mother, on January 9th, 2025, and asked her to tell J6ers that I love them to keep their chins up. On January 20th, the president issued a blanket pardon with the exception of 13 J6ers for the individuals charged in the sweeping investigation and prosecution conducted by the Biden DOJ. Trump's recently told Newsmax that he would look into both the progress of the lawsuit and the actions of Byrd. He says, I'm a big fan of Ashley Babbitt, the president told Kelly, which was Newsmax's person here, during a March interview. And Ashley Babbitt was a really good person who was a big MAGA fan, Trump fan. It says another hearing in the matter is set for May 12th. So I guess it's not totally settled, but at least it looks like it's coming to an end. So anyway, yes, that's good news, I guess, for Ashley Babbitt's family. And then we've got a couple Headline USA articles here. Trump says he will reopen Alcatraz. So I think that Anthony Fauci should be the first resident, don't you? Going to reopen Alcatraz prison. I am directing the Bureau of Prisons, together with the Department of Justice, FBI, and Homeland Security, to reopen a substantially enlarged and rebuilt Alcatraz to house America's most ruthless and violent offenders. How about that? Yeah, it's been closed for more than 60 years. Yes, it's just been a tourist destination is all, I think. In a post on his Truth Social site today, Trump wrote that for too long, America has been plagued by vicious, violent, and repeat criminal offenders. The dregs of society who will never contribute anything other than misery and suffering. When we were a more serious nation in times past, we did not hesitate to lock up the most dangerous criminals and keep them far away from anyone they could harm. That's the way it's supposed to be. And he says, that is why today I am directing the Bureau of Prisons together with the Department of Justice, FBI, Homeland Security to reopen a substantially enlarged and rebuilt Alcatraz to house America's most ruthless and violent offenders. Here's Laura Loomer's post about that. So Alcatraz will be opening back up. I think that's good news in general. Hopefully it will be bad news for people like Fauci and others. But, you know, obviously we won't hold our breaths that people like that will ever make their way there, but hopefully they will. We'll see. Anyways, thought that was pretty interesting that Alcatraz is going to be a prison again, not just a tourist destination. And then this one as well from Headline USA. Police didn't read the alleged left-wing assassin his rights and weren't using body cameras. Isn't that convenient? Officers questioned him without telling him he had a right to remain silent and search his property without a warrant. So are you thinking what I'm thinking? It's probably going to get thrown out. Luigi Mangione's lawyers urged a judge Thursday to throw out his state murder charges in the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, arguing that the New York case and a parallel federal death penalty prosecution amount to double jeopardy. Lawyers also revealed that police searched Mangione without a warrant and without their body cameras turned on. If the state charges aren't dropped, then Mangione's lawyers want terrorism charges dismissed and prosecutors barred from using evidence collected during Mangione's arrest last December, including a 9mm handgun, ammunition, and a notebook in which authorities say he described his intent to whack an insurance executive. So, and then it says Mangione's lawyers also want to excludes statements that he made to police officers who took him into custody in Pennsylvania after a 5-day search. So, yes, according to this article at least, they're saying that they didn't read him his rights. And they were not using body cameras. So, yeah, they're probably the same people that arrested Jeffrey Epstein, I'm guessing. I don't know. No, but, remains to be seen, but it's looking like this whole thing could get thrown out. And stay tuned. I think there's a musical coming about this guy. I kid you not. It's on a different tab, but we'll get there. Anyway, Information Liberation, got a couple articles from here. Anti-Semitism Awareness Act in jeopardy after pushback from Democrats and who else? Rand Paul. The future of the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act was thrown into jeopardy on Wednesday after Bernie Sanders and Ed Markey, together with Rand Paul's backing, introduced a series of amendments to undermine the bill's aim of outlawing criticism of Jews in Israel. Because that's what we need. Anyway, this is the backstory here on what's going on with all that. AIPAC threw a fit over the bill getting undermined. Of course they did. AIPAC, which supports the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. So they support that, obviously. Lamented the outcome. Says, let's be clear, trying to abolish the First Amendment to protect Jews in Israel from criticism while the Jewish state is committing genocide in Gaza is a disgrace. Every lawmaker who backed this disgraceful piece of legislation put loyalty to Israel above loyalty to America and should count their blessings if they're not being brought up on trial. I don't want to overhype what's taking place here, but there's a chance that this could be the start of a seemingly inevitable sea change of the Israel lobby losing its death grip on our Congress. Yeah, well, don't hold your breath, right? That would be nice, but says they've been aggressively rounding up critics of Israel for deportation, and that too is being undermined by the courts. So, talking about how the undermining of the First Amendment by making criticism of Jews in Israel illegal was a key part of their plan. Similar legislation has been advanced in other countries which don't have the First Amendment, but they appear to be failing here in America. Yeah, it's because they're being allowed to fail. Again, by those who are actually running the show. So anyway, and then more on that in a minute. Mike Waltz ousted over intense coordination with Netanyahu on plotting war with Iran. Trump ousted Michael Waltz as National Security Advisor not only due to Signalgate, but also due to his intense coordination with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu on pushing for war with Iran, according to Washington Post. Yes, I've heard from multiple sources that Trump does not want war with Iran, and not only that, but contrary to popular belief in what a lot of alt media is putting out there, that Trump cannot stand Netanyahu. And I think that's good news. So we'll see where it goes, but this is talking about Waltz. Trump's decision to oust his national security advisor was the product of a slow accumulation of frustration with a former Green Beret officer who was seen as far more eager to use military force than his boss in the Oval Office wanted. Waltz's fate was sealed by his inclusion of a journalist on his sensitive signal group chat back in March, which we talked about that when that happened. So yeah, he's named this guy instead of firing him. I think he's doing sort of a semi-lateral move. He's making Waltz the ambassador to the UN or something. Let me see if that's mentioned here. Well, anyway, there's quite a bit here on this article, but yeah, he's not too happy with Waltz, I guess, at this point for siding with Netanyahu. So I think that's good news if that's indeed the case. Well, again, we'll see where it goes. Israel launches drone attack on civilian ship bringing food and medicine to starving Gazans. Israel on Friday launched a drone attack against a civilian ship in international waters off the coast of Malta that was trying to bring humanitarian aid to the besieged Gaza Strip, according to the Freedom Flotilla Coalition. A pro-Palestinian NGO is the Freedom Flotilla Coalition. Says at 0023 Maltese time, a Freedom Flotilla ship was subjected to a drone attack. The Freedom Flotilla Coalition said on X, the front of the vessel was targeted twice, resulting in a fire and a breach in the hull. The ship is currently located in international waters near Malta. A distress signal, an SOS distress signal, was sent. So I'm looking to see how they know exactly who it was, which it seems obvious that, Israel's probably to blame here, but I'm wondering how they know. Anyway, Israel continues its aid blockade and bombardment of Gaza. Dr. Samer Attar, an American surgeon who's just returned, recounts what he witnessed. I don't think a horror movie could fictionalize how these scenes are any more sick, twisted, and disturbing. Yeah, I can't even imagine and don't want to as far as what's going on in Gaza. But yeah, it's got to be bad because they are just able to do anything and everything they want. Doug, did you say you believe Trump secretly despises Netanyahu? Yes, that's what I didn't just say that. I've actually heard people report that he does. It's not really a secret in the inner circle that he has a definite feeling that way on Netanyahu, that he really hates him. So, I'm just trying to give a little glimpse of hope there that hopefully he won't do what Netanyahu wants, which of course is war with Iran. So we'll see where it goes. And you can choose, of course, not to believe that. I just know that I've heard that from several sources that he does not like the guy at all. New Doge system finds $300 million of improper payment requests. Department of Government Efficiency this week highlighted a new automated payment verification system that it said was bringing a new layer of transparency to the Treasury Department. Over the first week of the new system, a total of $334 million in improper payment requests were identified and rejected. The requests were rejected for missing budget codes or having codes that were invalid or without authorization. Yeah, that's been part of this whole mess that they found all this money that's been budgeted and spent, and nothing was ever tracked as far as what it was going to. Doge leader Elon Musk and his staffers touted their work at the Treasury Department in an exclusive interview with Fox News published Thursday. Interview took place at Doge's weekly 10 p.m. Wednesday meeting at the Eisenhower Building in Washington. Musk, the tech billionaire, is expected to soon transition from leading Doge back into the private sector. Yeah, at the end of this month is when that's supposed to happen. But it always has been. He's not leaving because he's unhappy. He's just got to get back to his other jobs, multiple jobs. How did the Treasury pay out money without budget verification? Doge has previously reported in February that Treasury Department systems didn't always record budget information when making payments to government departments, leaving about $4.7 trillion in payments difficult to trace. Well, this says that they didn't always record budget information. I think they almost never did versus didn't always. What other revelations did Elon Musk and Doge staffers have for Fox? The Institute of Peace had a $130,000 contract with the former member of the Taliban for unclear generic services. 130 grand. The Small Business Administration gave about $668 million in loans to people marked as more than 120 or less than 11 years old. More than 120 or less than 11 years old, according to Doge. Yeah, I think the oldest person that people know about recently died, like in the last few days, 116, not 120. It says the Inter-American Foundation used roughly half of its yearly $50 million budget to promote the marketability of peas in Guatemala and support alpaca farmers in Peru, Doge said. $50 million budget. Sounds about right. Peas in Guatemala and alpaca farmers in Peru. I've been to Peru and I've seen alpacas, and I can tell you that none of them I saw had $50 million. Anyway, that is on the SIFT on WNG.org. And then this one is as well. Thought this was concerning for anybody out there ever driving on the roads. Driverless commercial trucking begins in Texas. You can see the truck here moving full steam ahead with no one driving it. Autonomous semis began their first regular commercial routes between Houston and Dallas this week. Driverless trucking firm Aurora said. Just as a sidebar here, I was just thinking, why don't they just build them their own roads and not have any, passenger vehicles with humans on them? How about that? Yeah, I wonder if Doge can find the missing 2.3 trillion pre 9/11. Yeah, I don't know. That money was probably squandered and spent helping to make sure that the 9/11 incident happened and that the Twin Towers fell, is my guess. That's where some of that 2.3 trillion went. But yeah, autonomous semis. That does not sound good. That is definitely a problem that we're all going to be facing, it looks like. Aurora's first customers are Uber Freight, a logistics technology company, and Hirschbach Motor Lines, which delivers time and temperature-sensitive freight shipments. Aurora briefed state and federal authorities prior to beginning driverless shipments. I wonder how they can even do this legally, including the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Texas Department of Transportation. Governor Greg Abbott said that the Aurora rollout of America's first driverless semis would build his state's economic prosperity and reputation for boosting innovation. The trucks would use the I-45 corridor, he said in a statement included in the Aurora news release. Are driverless trucks safe? ? Is that a rhetorical question? ? I'm adding that. Aurora conducted experiments and compiled records to build a safety report. That makes you feel better, doesn't it? Its driving system uses maps that frequently update and are far more detailed than typical navigation apps, the report said. The system is also trained on traffic regulations for its areas of operation, according to the report. Sensors on the vehicles can see farther than 4 football fields away. The company also previously had backup drivers ride along on all the trips to take over, just in case the autonomous systems had issues, like plowing at 100 miles an hour into the vehicle in front of it. I'm just adding that. Though that 4-year phase of testing has just ended, meaning having the humans in the cab as well, I guess. Where will the driverless trucks operate? Aurora trucks will drive routes in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona during the rollout phase, according to the company's safety report. They can drive day or night and in construction zones or heavy traffic. However, the trucks won't operate in inclement weather at first, as they've currently only been tested on light to medium rain and wind gusts up to 35 miles per hour. Man, this does not sound good at all. This sounds like a huge problem coming up very quickly. Driverless semis. Man, oh man. I think we're living in the end times, don't you guys? Yeah. So anyway, that one's on the SIFT section of WNG.org as well. One article from RT, another plane incident. Yet again, plane crashes into homes. This isn't the one that safely landed on the golf course that we watched earlier. No, this one crashed into homes in California. The pilot of a small single-engine aircraft has been killed. Small aircraft crashed into 2 homes in Simi Valley, killing the pilot. Looking to see if anybody in the houses were hurt. Ventura County Fire Department said people were inside both homes at the time of the crash, but evacuated without injury. So their homes went up in flame, I guess. So Ventura County Fire Department is on the scene of a small single-engine fixed-wing aircraft that crashed into two structures in Simi Valley. Both two-story single-family homes. So there you go. I mean, could just be living your life like normal and, you know, doing your normal thing in your house, and then a plane comes crashing into it. That's crazy. Anyway, more good news in California, I guess. They can't keep planes in the air in that state for some weird reason. All right, Slay News. Record-breaking blackouts in Spain and Portugal caused by a rare atmospheric phenomenon. So they're blaming it on the climate, which, of course, we looked at this at the beginning of the show. That is not what happened. Widespread power outages in Spain and Portugal, believed to be the largest ever recorded, were caused by a rare atmospheric phenomenon. Yeah, it's called turning everything to the green economy. That's the rare phenomenon. That was the first time they had switched it on, and the power grid couldn't work with only that particular input. So I'm looking to see if they even mention that or if they're blaming it on the weather. Videos on social media show trains stopped dead on the tracks with passengers stranded in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, something I heard said that there were like 300 people that were trapped inside of elevators. I don't know for how long, but that would not be very fun. That would not be good. Anyway, I just thought that was weird that they're blaming it on rare atmospheric phenomenon when that is not exactly what happened. Looking to see what the phenomenon is. It doesn't really say. It's describing what happened, which we already went through some of that. There's a video here of the trains not moving. Officials have warned that the blackouts could last for up to a week. Well, they got the power back up and running pretty quickly, I think. They're just calling it a rare atmospheric phenomenon. Yeah, that's what they were putting out officially, but that is not what happened. It says REN says that there were anomalous oscillations in Spain's very high voltage lines. Okay, that's what it was, actually. It says that this is known as induced atmospheric variation. This led to oscillations which caused synchronization failures between the systems. That led to successive disturbances across the interconnected European network. Okay, so they're calling the actual oscillations, which is what happened, they're calling that atmospheric phenomenon, which, yes, but it's an electrical phenomenon primarily. Anyway, that's on Slay News, and then this one as well. Town Hall. This is on townhall.com. But the state lawmakers face firestorm after this bizarre decision on child sex trafficking. I thought this is another crazy California situation here. California lawmakers have voted down a measure that would make it a felony to buy 16 and 17-year-olds for sex. Let me read that again. California lawmakers have voted down a measure that would make it a felony to buy 16 and 17-year-olds for sex. Assembly Bill 379 was introduced to crack down on sex trafficking, particularly those who traffic children. But no, they voted it down. The bill also requires those arrested for prostitution to attend a diversion program to help get them out of the sex industry. Obviously, the person who wrote this must have thought, oh yeah, well, everyone will vote for this, when in fact, that's not exactly what happened, is it? California Democrats indicated on Monday that they would remove the felony charge from the proposed legislation. State Assemblywoman Maggie Krell agreed to remove the clause that would upgrade the trafficking of 16 and 17-year-olds to a felony. In order to get a hearing on the bill, we were forced to remove the piece of the bill that ensures the crime of purchasing a minor for sex applies in all cases where the victim is under the age of 18. So it's not a felony, is what they're saying. I mean, how sick are these people? I'm looking to see if they're going to make it a misdemeanor or what. National Human Trafficking Hotline reported 1,128 trafficking cases in California that involved 2,045 victims. It noted that 297 of these victims were minors. Wow. But the Democrats say, that's all right. We're going to support the criminals. It's especially odd considering the Democrats claim to be about protecting children unless they're in the womb, of course. Yet, when given a piece of proposed legislation that would be a layup for most folks, they decided not to pass it. So that's on townhall.com. Not too surprising, is it? And then back to the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, the AAA, now has a religious liberty clause to protect Jews killed Jesus statements. So I'm looking to see what this was all about. Senate Republicans added an amendment to bipartisan legislation addressing rising anti-Semitism on college campuses that could be seen as a concession to Christian conservatives who want to protect those who preach that the Jews killed Jesus. The final language of the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act was posted online on Tuesday ahead of the committee vote. The added language, which is referred to as a manager's amendment and proposed by the committee's chair, which is Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, states that the legislation would not diminish or infringe upon any right protected under the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States, including the free exercise of religion. The bill would require the Department of Education to use the controversial International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition, how about that, of anti-Semitism, which classifies most anti-Zionism as anti-Semitic when investigating allegations of discrimination. It passed in the House last May by overwhelming majority, 320 to 91, but was stalled in the Senate due to some resistance over constitutionally protected free speech. It has been reintroduced in the House this year and is up for a vote at the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee on Wednesday morning. So that's coming up, you guys. Democrats who oppose enshrining the IHRA definition object to what they say would be the criminalization of criticism of Israel. Of the 11 examples of anti-Semitic speech, IHRA includes 6 having to do with Israel. While progressive groups have been vocal critics of the Trump administration, the letter puts them in the position of also undercutting efforts by Democrat and Jewish lawmakers to take steps that they say would protect the Jews. The U.S. House set to vote on bill of fines and prison for boycott of Israel. So this is actually something totally different, and yet very similar. U.S. House of Representatives is set to vote on a controversial bill that proposes fines or prison terms for Americans participating in boycotts of Israel or Israeli settlements promoted by international governmental organizations such as the UN or the EU. So that is getting strange really quickly here. The House is scheduled to vote on Monday, tomorrow, on the contentious Anti-Boycott Act, which seeks to penalize American citizens with fines, get this, up to $1 million or prison terms as long as 20 years for boycotting Israel. Let me read that again. They're going to vote on this on Monday, which seeks to penalize American citizens with fines up to $1 million and prison terms as long as 20 years for boycotting Israel. Sponsored by pro-Israel Congressman Mike Lawler and Josh Gottheimer, the bill will broaden the U.S. anti-boycott law by targeting voluntary, values-based political actions undertaken by American citizens. The underlying objective is to shield the Israeli regime from nonviolent international pressure campaigns, notably the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. Rights groups warn that the legislation will criminalize constitutionally protected political expression, Yes, I mean, if you can't choose to not spend your money with a certain company for whatever reason, then that is free speech, right? Taking it away from you. The move, according to rights groups, is part of a broader push by the U.S. government to suppress opposition to the Israeli genocide, apartheid, and illegal settlement expansion under the guise of fighting anti-Semitism. Of course, that's what it is. Anybody with half a brain could definitely see that. The original act was introduced in 2024. Back then, the Republican-controlled Congress passed this bill with broad bipartisan support, but the Senate Democrats blocked it. So we'll see where it goes. This is not good news, but know that is coming up here. This is on presstv.ir. So sounds like an Israeli website, most likely. Anyway, and then this one I came across. I did not know about this. Zombie volcano awakens. A zombie volcano dormant for 250,000 years awakens as scientists warn of eruption. This is not the one in Alaska that I've mentioned in the last couple weeks, which I think hasn't seen any change recently. The one up in Alaska. A volcano that has not erupted in 250,000 years is showing signs of imminent eruption that would cause destruction and loss of life. It's called Utruncu, a so-called zombie volcano located in the Andes Mountains of Bolivia, has experienced increased seismic activity and gas emissions, sparking fears that an eruption may be imminent. This unrest is visible in distinctive sombrero patterns of ground deformation where the land at the center of the volcano is rising while the surrounding area is sinking. So again, this is in Bolivia. A team of scientists led by the University of Oxford in the UK discovered that this activity is due to the movement of liquid and gas beneath the crater, which sits above the largest known magma body in the Earth's crust. Utruncu stands over 19,700 feet and is a stratovolcano, a large, steep, cone-shaped volcano built up by layers of hardened lava, volcanic ash, and rock. So here's a picture of it here, right there. Mount St. Helens and Mount Vesuvius are also stratovolcanoes known for their catastrophic eruptions. Utruncu lies within 25 miles of 3 towns, and an eruption would cause widespread damage and pose serious threat to life. So it says it's about halfway between 2 major cities in South America, La Paz in Bolivia and Santiago, Chile. Lava flows would engulf these nearby communities, while volcanic ash could spread across Bolivia, Argentina, and Chile. So that is something to keep an eye on. I don't know whether, I guess they're calling it zombie volcano because it's been so long since its eruption. Okay, here's a mention of Mount Spur, which is the one in Alaska. Mount Spur is the one they've been watching in Alaska. It says in March, Alaskan officials warned it could erupt in the next few weeks or months after observing increased seismic activity, ground deformation, and gas emissions. Mount Spur also sits about 78 miles from Anchorage, home to nearly 300,000 people, which would be blanketed in thick volcanic ash. So that's the other one that I've mentioned in the last couple of broadcasts, Mount Spur. There's a beautiful Anchorage right there. So anyway, this one article kind of covers both of those potentially pending eruptions, so something to watch out for. Miss Susan says, good night, God bless. Yes, good night. Thanks for being here, Susan. Really appreciate that. I saw this one as well and thought it was really strange. This is another Singularity Hub article. This is a site that I reference every now and then just because they have interesting high-tech related news. Kawasaki is building a robot that you ride like a horse. The Corleo robot is a concept. It does not exist yet, but how feasible is it? Let's discuss. It says Kawasaki recently revealed a computer-generated concept for a Corleo robotic horse. Video shows the automated equine galloping through valleys, crossing rivers, climbing mountains, and jumping over crevices or crevasses. The Corleo promises a high-end robotic solution to provide a revolutionary mobile experience. Kawasaki's current motorbikes are constrained to roads, paths, and trails, but a machine with legs has no boundaries. It can reach places that no other vehicles go. I think that's why they want to invent them, so that you can always be tracked down. So anyway, this is a video. This is the video here. Let me mute it just because it's most likely going to have music in it. So this looks like a video game or a sci-fi movie or something. No thanks. Doesn't sound like anything I would be interested in doing. How about you guys? So this is the, I guess the video they're using to sell people on how this would work. Kawasaki. So it's lighting the way here, showing the path. There's a woman and child on the back of one. Climbing a mountain too. Wow. It says the information processing unit is usually a computer which implements algorithms to process data from the sensors, build representations of the world, and determine what actions to execute, and then subject to a specific task of interest. Simple robots such as robotic vacuum cleaners satisfy these requirements. They have a suitable body for going under furniture and not getting stuck. The actuators are the motors that spin the wheels in the vacuum system. They have an impact sensor to detect collisions, and some even have cameras to help them understand their environment. Yeah, so this is just talking about how robots like this could work. This one seems a little bit more involved. It says next comes actuators, legged robots. In comparison to wheeled vehicles, they need to continuously balance and support their own weight. They also provide a level of suspension to cushion the rider. So anyways, we're going from driverless semi-trucks to robot horses. Yeah, no stirrups. I know, that's a good point. I didn't see any. There are foot things right here, it looks like. In that mock-up picture there is, but who knows? Kawasaki. Gotta hand it to him. Pretty strange. All right, then Iron Wire has an article on fluoride and video embedded as well. Fluoride fraud. The real and nefarious reason there's fluoride in your water. Debate over fluoride in our water has been raging for years now. On the one hand, we have the dental industry telling us it prevents cavities. On the other hand, data which shows that the fluoride is a toxin that causes brain damage. Or as we used to say, Dane Bramage. Years ago, if a medical college disciplined a doctor, we could be fairly sure that it was a doctor that we shouldn't trust. But since the start of the book narrative, we've seen one ethical doctor after another targeted by the colleges for telling the truth. So much so that today, at least for myself, this is Dr. Bob Dixon talking, if a doctor has been attacked by their college, it's a sign that they can be trusted. I like the way this guy thinks. Dr. Bob Dixon is one such doctor, the founder of Safe Water Calgary. Bob knows more about the detrimental effects of fluoride than any expert I've ever spoken with. 38% of municipalities in Canada are currently fluoridating the water, while data shows a catastrophic effect on our long-term health and especially on children. Then just 2 weeks ago, a bombshell report revealed that in the U.S., the CDC was pressuring municipalities to keep fluoride in the water. Why? The answer is always, who benefits? And in this case, the answer to that question will not only shock you, but convince you that not only does fluoridated water have almost no effect on preventing cavities, but it was never put in our water for that reason in the first place. Nope. It's a poison. It's a neurotoxin. It always has been. It's always been there to hurt us. Anyway, that one's on Iron Wire. And then, let's see. I pulled up one post from Forbidden Knowledge TV tonight. But, they always have a litany of various different ones. But I thought this one looked kind of interesting. Cell towers broadcast subliminal messages 24 hours a day. Subliminal messaging, how they turn your family against you, everyone is tracked. This person, Richard Lighthouse. Cell towers broadcast subliminal messages 24 hours a day. Targeted individual, Richard Lighthouse, holds a Master of Science degree in Mechanical Engineering from Stanford. He previously worked at NASA. He's the author of 100 books. So this is a transcript of the video, or at least some of it. So might be worth the watch and or read either way, because you could read what he said here. Thought that was kind of interesting. That's on Forbidden Knowledge TV. Let me see if I can find roughly where he's talking about the main part here. So there's this gang stalking. There's directed energy weapons that I've just described. And there's another thing that's been very debilitating to approximately 2/3 of the targeted individual community. It's called Voice to Skull, or V2K. This is a technology that was actually developed in the early 60s by a scientist by the name of Dr. Alan Fry. It's called the Fry effect. They can literally take this microwave beam and point it anywhere on your skull, and you will be the only one that will hear the voices that come through it. So you stand there and say, there's somebody cussing me out and calling me horrible names 24 hours a day. You cannot switch it off. There's no firewall for your mind, and the technology is very real. They're using the same technology on every U.S. citizen as a subliminal message. It is broadcast from cell towers 24 hours a day. Very disturbing. And a federal judge, has already ruled that subliminal messaging is illegal because it's an invasion of privacy. Yet, they continue to do it, don't they? We still have not convinced enough of the public that this is real. Everyone in the United States is technically a targeted individual. Your location is being tracked very precisely, and they're beaming messages at your head subliminally 24 hours a day. Wow. So there's more information here. I just read a little bit of it. I was looking to see if they have any more mention of V2K, or Voice to Skull. That's something I personally have had a little bit of experience with, and I won't bother going into that tonight, but several years back at least, and it was not pleasant. And that is what Dr. Rima Labo and her husband, who has now passed on, General Burt Stubblebine, both told me in an interview we did together back in 2016 after this happened to me. And I've talked about it before, but yeah, it was basically a voice to skull type of experience that I had. I do think it's 100% real, and it's super scary, not fun. But I haven't experienced it since, luckily, knock on wood. But I do think it's real, so it'd be interesting to see what this guy has to say. It's on ForbiddenKnowledgeTV.net. All right, and then Leo Hohmann's got his main website article here about Mike Waltz again. Trump fires globalist neocon National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Could this be the beginning of a neocon purge? If so, there are more of these warmongering globalists in Trump's inner circle who need to go. Which we mentioned him a little bit ago. That is the guy who was teaming up with Netanyahu and wanting war with Iran. But Trump, yes, he did remove him from that position, but he has kept him in the administration to a degree. Although you could argue that it's kind of pointless, because who wants to be an ambassador to the UN? But that's where he is now. So I guess he'll go live in New York where he belongs, maybe. I don't know. But that is on Leo Hohmann's main website. And then on his Substack, he too has an article here on fluoride. Florida poised to become second state to ban fluoride in public drinking water. And the Democrats are livid. Following Utah, Florida's state legislature passes bill and sends to the governor's desk 75 years of lies about fluoride are finally being exposed. And note, so are the geoengineering / chemtrails and so much else. and there's only Sky, and so much else is coming out now. I think it's wonderful that it is coming out. So Emily's saying sleeping in a Faraday cage seems like the only option for these targeted individuals. How horrific to go through that constantly. I know, I can't imagine it. I don't know if that would work or not. I guess it would. The problem with that, though, is that some of what I was getting from my experience was that it's more DNA based, or it can be DNA based as well, based on the signature of your DNA. So I don't know if you could protect from that, but yeah, I see what you're saying though. Faraday cage. All right, one article I pulled up on Natural News. BitChute CEO warns UK heading toward China-style internet censorship. It seems to me like they're already there. BitChute CEO likened the UK's growing internet censorship to China's Great Firewall, warning of mass surveillance, eroded encryption, and thought policing under the new Online Safety Act, which sounds highly Orwellian if you ask me. He criticized UK authorities for targeting individuals over social media posts, citing cases like police visiting pensioners' homes for, quote, offensive Facebook comments, calling it a betrayal of free speech. No kidding. Yeah, they've had to, I think BitChute's kind of had to shut down some of their operating there because of this whole free speech issue. Yeah, that is, again, home to King Charles, and note how speech is being removed from the UK at this point. So I don't know if that is something directly related to him, but my guess is he's probably all for it as far as that goes. So that's on naturalnews.com, talking about BitChute, and UK is heading for China-style internet censorship. And then this one on Wine Press, World War III, J.D. Vance admits war in Ukraine will not end anytime soon, while Trump to send more weapons after Zelensky agrees to minerals deal, as BlackRock buys more land and resources. So I heard that earlier, that they're getting more money for more weapons, which I don't know who's making the weapons exactly. Groundbreaking deal was made this week after U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent and the White House announced a new minerals deal with Ukraine. Deal that reportedly does not have any security guarantees that Zelensky was seeking after, though entities such as BlackRock are poised to be the beneficiaries of this latest agreement. Oh boy. But even though the deal is being framed as if the U.S. and Ukraine are acting as economic partners, J.D. Vance has acknowledged the war in Western Europe is far from over. After failing to end the war on first day in office, and before even that, well, he mentioned that on the campaign trail, Trump first floated out a tentative minerals deal as a means for Ukraine to repay the U.S. for all the money it invested in the war against Russia, which we saw what happened with the whole blow up in the Oval Office and stuff with Zelensky. Now, just after Trump's first 100 days in office, the same timeline, his envoy to Ukraine, Russia, Keith Kellogg, self-imposed to reach a ceasefire agreement, who also joked about the administration's claim to end the war on day one. Joked about it. Yeah, this Keith Kellogg guy's not good. Not good. The U.S. and Ukraine have agreed to some sort of minerals deal. Trump and Zelensky met last week to broker some sort of deal at the Vatican during the Francis funeral. Yeah, which we mentioned that last week. So I don't know. We'll see, but it doesn't look like it's ending anytime soon, does it? That's on Wine Press's Substack. Wine Press News on Substack. And then we've got a few Gateway Pundit articles. We'll just go through these real quickly. Tulsi Gabbard shares her reaction to removing Hillary Clinton's security clearance. She said she's being interviewed here by Megyn Kelly. So let's see what they say.
We were talking about Russia briefly. You and I have talked before about how Hillary Clinton labeled you a puppet of Putin, you put a Russian asset. Debbie Wasserman Schultz shamefully said the same. And I saw recently President Trump withdrew Hillary Clinton's security clearance, which you had to do.
Yes.
I mean, that must have been a little fun. Right? Or just a little fun.
I smiled.
Of course you did. You're only human.
Yeah, I am.
So yeah, that's over for her.
And a number of other people, by the way, when you look at the 51
Mark Zaid, I love
former
that.
intelligence officials who signed that Hunter Biden disinformation letter and never apologized for it, never held themselves accountable for it. Yes, Mark Zaid, you had Letitia James and
Why
others.
did she even have one?
Well, some of them didn't have clearances, but they had access to classified information, and so we took away that access for those
Alvin Bragg
who didn't have clearances. Yes.
Okay.
And there are more to come, and this is part of what we're doing in our investigative work as we go back and look, for example, at Crossfire Hurricane and how there were assistant U.S. attorneys who were knowingly using manufactured testimony, that they would interview a witness, for example, and know that the witness was lying to them, either because they set up the lie or they knew that the witness was lying, took that lie and used it as evidence to get a warrant under FISA to go and surveil on Americans, which is completely illegal. And so these are the kinds of things those types of people, those assistant U.S. attorneys or those FBI agents that were involved in this kind of stuff, these are crimes that need to be prosecuted, and these people need to be held accountable.
Will that happen?
That will happen.
Well, let's hope so. Arrest them. Put them in prison if that's what they did, and it can be proven. What else can you say? Miller time, ? MAGA favorite reportedly emerges as top candidate to become Trump's next national security advisor for two critical reasons. There's a name reportedly at the top of the list to be Trump's next national security advisor for two major reasons, and the left will absolutely go nuts if this happens. Yeah, so Stephen Miller is he's a favorite of mine. I like him a lot. I think he's doing really good work, and he's fun to listen to as well. Let's see if this, I don't know if this article doesn't have a video clip. I've got one pulled up here, though. So let's listen to what he has to say. This is a very similar story, continuation, sort of. White House fires off sizzling response to Harris's first speech since election. It was a great reminder, quote unquote. So this is just a little bit of Stephen Miller, if you guys don't know him.
Okay, thank you. Last night, Kamala Harris delivered her first major speech after losing the election. She attacked Trump personally, attacked the policies. Any comment from the White House on that?
Well, I think it was a great reminder to the American people of just how blessed we all are that the leader sitting in the Oval Office today is President Donald Trump and not President Kamala Harris. It was a helpful reminder of just what a travesty and a tragedy that would have been. It would have been the end of America. And it gives me a chance to bring this whole thing home. If we continued on this road of radical regulation, choking off American energy, sending our supply chains to foreign countries, taxing our economy to death, pushing this cancerous woke ideology on our children, ending merit, ending scientific innovation, ending public safety, allowing, everyone goes to the stores these days, everything's locked up, criminals roam free, law-abiding citizens under the previous administration were punished while gangbangers were given red carpet treatment. Democrats, of course, are still giving gangbangers red carpet treatment. And then the border invasion. If those policies had continued, it would have been the end of the American Republic. And the only thing Americans want to hear from Kamala Harris is an apology for joining Joe Biden, and remember, she was the border czar, joining Joe Biden in aiding and abetting the invasion of our country. And we're never going to stop talking about this, because what they did to this country is unforgivable. It is an eternal stain on the Democrat Party. Every day we read another story. Every day we arrest another alien they let into this country who raped a child, who beat a woman within an inch of her life, who murdered a mom, who murdered a dad, who trafficked drugs into this country, who trafficked fentanyl into this country, who are responsible for dead and slaughtered Americans. And I don't know what's broken in the Washington press corps, that none of that moves them emotionally. The only thing that gets them exercised is Do we need to have more trials for terrorist supporters? We need to have more trials for gangbangers. We need to have more trials for illegal alien invaders, even though Congress and the Constitution clearly say that you can expel invaders and illegal aliens quickly, efficiently, and properly. This president has literally saved America, and I could not be prouder. I could not be prouder, as I know Caroline feels the same way, to come every single day to this building where we have a leader sitting in that office whose first, last, and every thought is the safety, prosperity, security, and sovereignty of the citizens. That's an important word, people. Citizens of this republic. Thank you all.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for your time. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, so I mean, if Kamala Harris broke the law, I mean, if she was aiding and abetting, don't you think she should be arrested too? I mean, is that illogical to assume that that might be the case? Seems like, to me, they should go after her if they're not already, which I sort of doubt that they are. But anyway, yeah, I think he makes a good point there. So anyway, Stephen Miller, that's the guy that we were talking about on this article as well, could be the next national security advisor. So we'll see where it goes, but he seems very capable, and indeed was, I guess, part of the first Trump administration to some degree as well. So let's see here. We've got a few more from this same site. I thought this one's pretty funny. We were showing Megyn Kelly earlier. This is she had a lot to say on the whole women's Blue Origin flight that happened, back a few weeks ago now, and she was really making fun of them, which rightfully so. They deserve that for sure. Well, this is a video that they put together, she and her team, and they called it Zero Gravity, Zero Clue, Blonde Origin instead of Blue Origin. And it's a spoof on the whole Blue Origin girl ride. And what they do is they go up in a plane to experience the whole zero G thing. And that's what this video is about. I'm looking to see if it's embedded here. It's on my Twitter page. It's not embedded here on this site, but this is a still shot from it. And we won't bother watching it, but it is actually really funny. They go up in a specially built jet airliner, and they have that room that you see that they're sitting in. They lay on the floor, and then it literally is dropping down out of the sky, and they can experience zero gravity for just a little while, for, I don't know, seconds or maybe a few minutes. But it's pretty funny, and the whole spoof on the whole Blue Origin thing is what makes it funny. So they did a good job on that. But yeah, they were making fun of them. And then I saw this one. Katy Perry snaps at critics after mockery of her all-female space crew, unhinged and unhealed. So, I mean, seriously, who cares? But this is the, I guess, the text from her post on Instagram, talking about how she deserves to be called an astronaut, I guess, for falling with style. Anyway, that is another Gateway Pundit article. Won't spend a lot of time on that, but I thought that was pretty funny. Fake news has no shame. 60 Minutes, the show, picks up 13 Emmy nominations, including the segment where they selectively edited and spliced their Kamala Harris interview before the election. You guys remember that? The whole Kamala Harris? I still don't know how to say her name, and I guess it doesn't matter. Former CNN star Brian Stelter announced Thursday on X that 60 Minutes picked up 13 Emmy nominations this year for their junk reporting. So, I mean, how ridiculous. I mean, they're just, the whole Emmy thing is ridiculous too. But anyway, yeah, they're going to give an award for the edits that they did, I guess, on the fake interview with Kamala Harris. Too funny. Why wouldn't they? Of course they are. They like to give themselves awards. All right, and then this one, somebody got to her. Epstein victim Virginia Giuffre's father breaks silence in first live interview and insists that she did not die by suicide. So this is her father here on Piers Morgan's show. In a chilling, emotional interview with Piers Morgan, Sky Roberts, the father of Virginia Giuffre, the most well-known victim of Jeffrey Epstein, flatly rejected the official explanation of his daughter's death, insisting that she did not die by suicide and strongly suggesting foul play. Somebody got to her, he said. Jeffrey, who courageously exposed the depravity of Epstein's elite trafficking network, had long claimed that she was abused by powerful men, including Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, and others connected to Epstein's inner circle. Her father's explosive remarks come amid mounting skepticism surrounding her sudden death. How much contact have you had with Virginia in recent years? And her father, Sky Roberts, says, not a lot. I hadn't spoken to her in years. But I think that she basically tried to protect me because she knew a lot of things about a lot of powerful people. And to me, she was just protecting me so that I wouldn't get involved in any of it. Like I said, when she was here, we were together all the time and doing a lot of things together. She was on her own to go against Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Prince Andrew. She was on her own this whole time. I'm not saying she did it as a way to earn money or anything. She was just trying to make these people pay for what they did. So you can see this was a kind of a group interview here. So anyway, just wanted to mention that. And he's saying that she did not die by suicide, which is what most people think. You know, doesn't make a lot of sense. We've talked about that in the last few weeks. All right, this is the other one that I mentioned a little bit ago. Sick. Theater in San Francisco is producing a musical comedy about accused murderer Luigi Mangione, who may very well walk free, as I mentioned earlier. The left's weird obsession with Luigi is sickening, and it just got much worse. A theater in San Francisco has announced a production of a musical comedy about the alleged murderer called Luigi the Musical. Luigi the Musical. These people hate Trump and Republicans with the heat of 1,000 suns, but they squeal like fangirls over someone who allegedly shot an innocent man in the back, killing him in cold blood. Yeah, they love death. Luigi the Musical to debut in San Francisco this summer. And you watch, I bet you anything that this will be sold out. A musical comedy based on alleged murderer Luigi Mangione is set to debut in San Francisco. Luigi the Musical is being sold as a story of love, murder, and hash browns, according to the press release. Last week, Mangione pleaded not guilty to federal murder charges in the execution-style assassination of Brian Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare. Prosecutors formally declared their intent to seek the death penalty if convicted. Yeah, what is wrong with these people? Accused cold-blooded killer Mangione to be portrayed as an accidental folk hero in sick new musical in San Francisco. Again, we are living in the end times. I think this helps further prove it, doesn't it? Man. Does anyone on the left have any idea how this makes them look, or do they even care? I think that's the whole point. They just want to do anything that's the opposite of what normal Americans might want. So yeah, they're going to make a musical comedy out of a murderer because, of course, they're Democrats. Why else wouldn't they? And then, let's see. We've got a few Not the Bee articles. This has been kind of a big story in the last few days. Somali man previously charged with child rape accosted this Minnesota mom for using the N-word. But she has raised over $250,000, and we need to talk about it, this article says. Remember the ancient times before Barack Obama reignited America's skin color wars? Here's how it's going in 2025. Then I won't bother playing this because of the strong language, but new. Woman calls a kid the N-word with the hard R, and you know the N-word that we're talking about, and accuses him of taking her son's stuff. Did you just call the child the N-word? The man in the video says. The woman says, yeah. What if he acts like one? He took my son's stuff. So that gives you the right to call the child the N-word. And so if they go back and forth a bit, and then he basically threatens her and goes and follows her to her car and videos her license plate, proceeds to publish it on his social media channels, and then people basically dox her. They put out her private information, where she lives, and everything else. let me set the stage. Rochester, Minnesota, mom Shiloh Hendricks was at the playground at Soldier Field Park. She says a young black child was rummaging through her 18-month-old son's diaper bag. She apparently called him the N-word in response. That's when a Somali man by the name of Sharmaik Omar began filming her and harassing her and following her to her car, as seen above, which I mentioned that already. He videoed her license plate on purpose and then put it up on social media. Adding more complexity to the situation, this guy who did this, who did the filming, was charged in 2023 with raping a 16-year-old. Says more information about that. This guy is the one, I guess, in the video using the camera. Context is important. Here's another twist. In March 2025, charges against Omar were dropped in, and I quote, the interest of justice. ABC Channel 6 appears to have updated their story this week after people began sharing their previous report. So they're trying to cover up for him, is what's going on here. According to Texas Republican delegate, the social media sleuth Sarah Fields, Omar was at the playground with his own kids. She's reached out to him for comment. The black child's parents were also reportedly at the playground, contrary to the claims about that from many accounts online. So the kid that he is supposedly talking about in the video wasn't even his kid. That brings us what happened to the man after he tried to make Shiloh Hendricks famous. Now here is the screenshot of the Give, Send, Go. Help me protect my family. Goal $250,000. They had already raised $271,000 as of whenever that screenshot was taken. That's right. Hendricks has raised, this is her, Hendricks, has raised almost $300,000 after the incident. She says she started a crowdfunding campaign because Omar made her internet famous, which has led to bad actors trying to dox and threaten her. Says that he then posted these videos online, which has caused my family and myself great turmoil. My social security number has been leaked. My address and phone number have been given out freely. My family members are now being attacked. My eldest child may not be going back to school. That's where even where I exercise has been exposed. So all this information about her has been put out. That's why she's getting so much support. And then on the flip side of it, you have the young man who is accused of stabbing the young white guy. So, and then again making what, $300,000, $500,000, whatever it was, as far as the people supporting him. So it's just crazy how stuff's going. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that if you guys didn't know about that story. Yeah. So anyways, not good. And then another Not the Bee article. Their articles are a little out there, so just if you're not aware of that. This one's another one about trucking. Truck spills $800,000 in dimes on a Texas highway. Well, I wonder if it was one of the driverless trucks. Probably not. In an incident that gives new meaning to the phrase dropping dimes, an 18-wheeler carrying a reported $800,000 in Roosevelt's turned on a Texas highway, spilling the 8 million coins all over the road. And actually, I'll leave this muted. I'll just let it play while I read this. But truckload of dimes. Wise County. The Wise County crews are working to clean up US 81 after an 18-wheeler carrying dimes overturned on Tuesday. Look, they're using a giant vacuum to vacuum up dimes all over the grass. And there's the truck, what's left of it. And this guy is just, he's picking them up out of the dirt and putting them in those little wrappers. All right, because that's a woman. No, I'm just teasing. Not really. They're putting them in those containers there. They're picking them up out of the dirt. The vehicle carrying the dimes was driving through Alvord in Wise County, about 75 miles northwest of Dallas, when the driver veered off the roadway and overcorrected, causing the 18-wheeler to roll onto its side. Video showed workers using vacuum trucks shovels, and even their bare hands to collect the millions of dimes scattered across the highway. Wouldn't you love that job? The spill caused the roadway to be closed for 14 hours while the crews worked to clean up the coins. So, there'll be, I don't know if there's, 8 million dimes. They're probably going to miss a few, is my guess. There'll be some people out there with some metal detectors looking for free funds. Probably not what Texas had in mind when it comes to dropping some serious coin to resurface state highways. Anyways, 800 grand in dimes spilled all over the place. Wow. You probably haven't heard about Trump's best idea, and how he's implementing it is perfect. So I was looking to see what this even was. Basically, he is creating a situation here where he's encouraging people to come up with some ideas for some really important statues. The Trump administration announced this week an opportunity for American artists to create sculptures of historical figures like Washington and Patrick Henry, Davy Crockett, and other American heroes in celebration of the nation's 250th birthday coming up. National Endowment for the Humanities announced on Thursday that it would be handing out grants for artists to sculpt one of the 250 American historical figures identified by the Trump administration for placement in a new National Garden of American Heroes. That sounds like a soon-to-be target of the left, if you ask me. I mean, they'll blow it sky high as soon as it's built. That's my thinking on that. Anyways, yeah. So who knows? It says calling that gamesmanship, says Trump is sticking a finger in the eye of Black Lives Matter cultural revolutionaries. Whatever his motivation, a National Garden of American Heroes is such a worthy effort, provided it can remain non-political and true to history. Yeah, my guess is, though, that it will have to be guarded 24/7. So far, names like George Washington, Davy Crockett, Neil Armstrong, the fake astronaut, Clara Barton, Frederick Douglass, Sacagawea, and Alvin York have all been promoted as leading candidates for inclusion. All of them are people who embody the spirit of Americanism. The very spirit that's been slandered by race baiters and gender radicals for the better part of 2 decades. So anyway, very interesting. So that's one news tidbit here that I came across that Trump was doing that some people might think is kind of cool. Now, did you guys know about the Kool-Aid Man challenge? I had no idea that people were actually dumb enough to do this, but yep. You remember Kool-Aid, the Kool-Aid Man, the Kool-Aid commercials from the 70s and 80s on TV. Kool-Aid Man challenge is back, and it's destroying homeowners' fences. So the Kool-Aid challenge was made popular during the pandemic, and if you don't know where it comes from, I give you this GIF or GIF, little animated element here. You see the Kool-Aid Man busting through the door, right? It says, oh yeah, those Kool-Aid commercials from the 70s and 80s, and possibly the scene from Family Guy have brought on this challenge from 2 years ago. And so this is what kids are doing, and I'll just show it instead of letting you hear the sound, because it's not really that important. Kids are running at fences and smacking into it and busting holes in it. And there's one of the original commercials, right? Then this guy's fence got broken into. You can see what they do. They just smack into it and knock big holes in the fences. So if you have a fence around your property, you might want to keep a sharp eye on it. It says now the challenge has made a comeback. New York police are looking for a group of teens responsible for conducting the Kool-Aid Man challenge on a fence, where a group of teens charged through homeowners' fences before running away. So, I don't know. What in the world? Here's a good solution here. We have a proposition for these homeowners. So there's your answer right there. That's what you want. That's what you want on your side of the fence. Never mind, you can't ever use your yard again, I guess, but just saying. Anyway, pretty wild. That one's on Not to Be. And one more. This is one you got to hear as well. So you guys know about this catch of the year. It says, watch this dad reel in a foul ball while his daughter covers his eyes. Spoiler alert, he catches it.
Oh. What? He's going to catch the ball and she covers his eyes.
How about that?
And he still caught it.
It's dad power right there.
That's impressive. Oh. What? He's going to catch the ball and she covers his eyes.
How about that?
And he still caught it.
It's dad power right there.
That's impressive.
That's dad power right there. Yeah, don't panic. Dad's got this. I thought that was pretty funny. Neat little story. That's on Not to Be. All right, then got a few modernity articles pulled up as well. J.D. Vance absolutely savages neocon warmonger Bill Kristol over Trump as Pope meme. And I thought this was kind of funny. Bill Kristol, pro-Iraq and chicken hawk neocon, Trump hater, and all-around detestable gremlin, was handed his own rear end by Vice President J.D. Vance after Kristol asked for his thoughts on President Trump posting a joke image of himself as the Pope. This all started last week when Trump joked that he would be the best candidate for the next Pope, which we went through that earlier. A viral meme trend imagines Donald Trump as the Pope, complete with papal robes and Vatican flair. So that's a different picture there. And then Trump reposted one. So he, whether or not he did it, I don't know, but he reposted one on Truth Social. Kristol, acting on behalf of all the execrable people in the world, attempted to needle Vance over the post, whining, "Hey, J.D. Vance, are you fine with this disrespect and mocking of the Holy Father?" To which J.D. Vance says, "As a general rule, I'm fine with people telling jokes and not fine with people starting stupid wars that kill thousands of my countrymen." That was his response. That is classic. Holy Pope Mobile Robin. And it says, "Lol, absolute destruction of neocon Kristol," somebody said. Yeah, I guess he had it coming, didn't he? Elon says robots will surpass good human surgeons within a few years. Would you trust a robot to cut you open? Elon Musk has predicted that robots will replace the best human surgeons in just a few years from now. So we've kind of touched on this before, talking about AI in medicine and stuff, but this is even a step further, really. Robots will surpass good human surgeons within a few years and the best human surgeons within 5 years, Musk emphasized in a now viral quote responding to conservative influencer Mario Nafal. He further noted that Neuralink had to use a robot for the brain-computer electrode insertion as it was impossible for a human to achieve the required speed and precision. So again, going back to the Neuralink, which many of you guys have heard of and know all about, the brain-computer interface, but it's something that is so intricate that obviously not that many people would be able to even get it. The post has close to 50 million views at the time of this writing. Complication rates were super low, just 3.7% for prostate surgeries, 1.9% for kidney surgeries, and 17.9% for bladder surgeries, all beating safety goals from years of research. Talking about the robot doing the surgery. Wow. So they're already testing it, it sounds like. The robot got a 98.5% success rate, way above the 85% goal, meaning it didn't just pass the test, it basically set the curve. Out of 137 surgeries, only 2 needed to switch back to regular surgery, 1 because of a robot glitch, I wonder what that was, and 1 because of a tricky patient case. Doesn't mean robots replacing surgeons tomorrow, but it does mean your next doctor might have a very expensive metal sidekick. So yeah, that is coming. So just be aware. It's a lot closer than people would be willing to believe, I think. So that is highly unfortunate. And then this one too, geoengineers eye Boeing 777 for sulfur sky dump, risking acid rain disaster. Yeah, you suppose? Plan would strongly increase side effects such as acid rain. Yeah, this guy is a guy that I follow on Substack. But, they're kind of, again, like I always say, they're going back to this is just an idea. It's not actually happening right now, which is, of course, totally wrong. It's been happening for decades. But that's how they approach it in these types of articles. Scientists are proposing to modify a Boeing 777 aircraft to spray sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere in an attempt to cool the Earth in the name of debunked so-called climate change. I would say that it does exist, and it's called geoengineering. Despite fully acknowledging the serious risk of acid rain and other environmental disasters. So again, we're talking about how this is, it's just an idea. They're just going to try it and see if it works. Which, so silly. Obviously, it's been going on for a long time. Retrofitting Boeing 777 to spray sulfurs. Yeah. So anyway, there's quite a bit here, actually, on this article. So that's on modernity.news. And then I've got a few vaccine impact articles pulled up. U.S. Congress to vote on bill criminalizing boycotts of Israel as Houthis bomb Tel Aviv airport. So that kind of combines two different stories that I mentioned already tonight. The House will vote on Monday on H.R. 867, the IGO Anti-Boycott Act, sponsored by Rep. Mike Lawler. Fines up to $1 million and prison sentences up to 20 years. For Americans participating in boycotts of Israel or its settlements, if these boycotts are endorsed by international bodies like the UN or the EU. The IGO Anti-Boycott Act. So that is something to look forward to, isn't it? Jail time for boycotting Israel's anything. First 100 days of Trump's Zionist regime, death to free speech and the First Amendment. I would say that although that is possible, that hasn't actually happened yet. But again, it is very possible. We'll see where it goes. So some of these articles on vaccine impact are a little over the top in my opinion, but if you guys agree with the sentiment here, feel free to check it out. This one too I thought was kind of interesting. This just happened over the weekend here, bolstered by prayers for the biblical heartland. Sovereignty beats journalism at the Kentucky Derby. So the horse race was this weekend, but they're attaching a divine message to it based on the horses' names. Usually, people look for signs and omens to help them choose horse racing winners. Still, a divine message appeared on Saturday at the 151st Kentucky Derby, boding well for the biblical heartland, meaning where Kentucky is, I guess. 147,000 spectators watched 19 horses race on a sloppy track, still muddy from heavy rain. Michael McCarthy's Santa Anita Derby winner, Journalism, was the favorite to win and led in the home turn, but Florida Derby runner-up and the 7-1 third choice Sovereignty under Venezuelan rider Alvarado pulled ahead in the final stretch to win the race by 1.5 lengths. So there it is there. If you didn't see it, you can watch it. Just horses running in the mud. The aptly named thoroughbred may have been helped along by the power of the prayers of pro-Israel horse racing enthusiasts praying for Israeli, quote, sovereignty. So once again, it's all about Israel. The Kentucky Derby is not about horse racing. Nope. The winner only won because of Israel. So there you go. Indeed, it says Israeli sovereignty over Judea and Samaria has been in the prayers of Jews and Christians alike, especially since the election of Donald Trump. And that has brought about the possibility of that to the forefront. Journalism may have been hindered by the ill will generated by the mainstream media for its shabby treatment of the Jewish state. So we're back to anti-Semitism and the coming laws against free speech. So there you go. They've taken it to mean that the horse winning in the Kentucky Derby only did so, I guess, because of the prayers of the Israelis. So there you go. I'm sure that's true. Anyway, Geoengineering Watch for this week, we have kind of an interesting one. Severe weather threatens 113 million. While Texas, Oklahoma blasted by damaging storms for 10th straight day. Geoengineering goes polar. A faster, riskier way to cool the Earth, according to SciTech Daily. The mission to dim the sun, how controversial geoengineering technique could cool the planet using existing aircraft. That's a Daily Mail headline. Whiplash weather set to disrupt U.S. this summer, a forecast warns. That's an MSN headline. Climate engineering weather warfare operations aren't just dangerous. They're not just a proposal. It's an ongoing and rapidly worsening reality. So, yeah, this one is another good installment of GeoWatch Global Alert News. So feel free to look at that if you guys want. Make sure you guys are on the newsletter list, on the email sign-up list. You can click this little link over here, that icon, and drop in your email address and be on the list. I blast that out usually on Saturday evenings. My time is when that goes out. Whenever Dane has it prepared and up on the website, then he calls me, tells me, and I send it out. So we've got a pretty good list of people on there at this point. So make sure you guys are on there. We're up to, 50 million visitors on this website. That's all. So, yeah, it's definitely the best place to go for geoengineering information for sure. And then we have the scheduled weather for this week. Yet another wacky one. We have below normal temps in the southeast instead of warm and above normal. And instead, nope, that's out west. So got the split more or less down the middle, and you got the hot side hot and the cool side cool. And then let's see. Gateway Pundit found this one on the old King. King and Harry aren't getting along too well, I guess, these days. Buckingham Palace fuming after... So I guess the building's mad. The palace is mad, fuming after Prince Harry says that he doesn't know how long King Charles has to live. Okay. British royal family's prodigal son, Prince Harry, has once again stood in front of TV cameras to dwell at length on his grievances with the UK's government, his own family, and his father, King Charles, who, quote, won't speak to him. So, says Harry's now facing widespread criticism for sparking speculation surrounding His Majesty's health in the BBC interview after he shockingly said that he didn't know how much longer King Charles has to live. Well, if he becomes the biblical Antichrist like we expect him to, then he will have, maybe 3 years, 3.5 years. But it depends on when it happens, I guess. So I thought that one was a little strange. And then he's out here shoveling dirt in this video, which I thought was peculiar. And keep an eye on what the Queen does to him. Like, look here. She's like, I guess, feeling him up. I don't know. No, she's probably just trying to get his attention, but I thought that was really strange. So what they're doing here, I guess, is they're planting a beautiful Swedish oak, according to this. King Charles and Sweden's King Carl Gustaf. King Carl, the 16th? Gustaf, I guess is his name. Gustaf. Plant a beautiful Swedish oak. So anyway, this is them supposedly planting a tree, which, spoiler alert, the tree's already planted. They just throw a little dirt on the bottom of it. Anyway, I guess that's all he can muster. That's all the energy he has. He's got a brand new shovel, never been used, and the tree's already there. Everything's already done. And they're talking about how wonderful it's going to be to have that tree. And they're going to throw some dirt on it, maybe 3 shovels full, and sprinkle it with some water, and they'll be all set. Anyway, yeah, that's the soon-to-be Antichrist for you. He's out there planting trees. It's just past Earth Day, Look, he's almost exhausted already. Look, he's got 3 scoops, and then he says, that's enough. Nope, he's going for a fourth one. Let's see if he does 6. I'm just guessing. I don't know. Nope, just 4, I guess, unless they cut it out. They're dropping the water on now. So that's what the women are there for, I guess, to do the watering. I don't know. Very strange. Whatever. Maybe Harry's right. I don't know. But he doesn't look too sick to me. I always keep coming back to that. He doesn't look that sick to me. But whatever. Maybe it's not true, the whole cancer thing. I don't know. It probably is, but my guess is he's going to be just fine, don't you? Okay, so Diamond Report on X. Let me do a refresh here. This is going to take just a second because there's a lot on this page. It's this tweet that's mentioning Megyn Kelly because it's her original tweet. But this is the world premiere of Blonde Origin. This is the funny video here where they're making fun of Blue Origin and the crazy women in the capsule, supposedly, that happened, that we all have our doubts about. Well, this is Blonde Origin, and this is that plane back there, 0G, see it? That plane back there is that's the plane where they're experiencing 0G, zero gravity. So, that's the story here, and it's pretty funny. Let me go a little ways into it, where they're kind of jumping around a little bit. See, they've started out flat here, laying on their backs because the plane hasn't gone into its nosedive yet. But see, look, as soon as the plane starts dropping, and they do show a little bit of how this works with the plane. So this right here tells you that, just riding in the correct plane can get you the footage you need. Therefore, what happened with the whole Blue Origin thing could have completely been faked, because they could have used a plane like this or something similar. I don't know. I don't know if they did or if they were actually in it or not, but you can see these women are weightless for a few seconds or maybe a minute or two, which isn't all that different than the Blue Origin crowd with Katy Perry and them. So anyway, she made this short little film here kind of mocking the whole Blue Origin thing when they're calling it Blonde Origin, which to me it's really funny. So anyway, she's saying, yes, I'm inspirational, quote unquote. They are using it as kind of a swag and merchandise grab here, though. So they are making some money off of it. So don't get me wrong here. That they do have ulterior motives for sure. All right, if you're not on Substack, make sure you are following along and can subscribe for free. Just drop your email address in there and you will be able to access the links that I send out on Tuesday. I'll send all that out on Tuesday. It'll have the links from tonight's show on the various platforms available, and also the final YouTube version will be on there as well. So yeah, that is one option here is signing up for the Substack, and many of you guys are already on there, I'm sure, anyway. But if you want to contribute, you can contribute to the show and help me pay for this show. Again, it's really a long way from breaking even really at this point, but I do have a few subscribers on Substack and then a very few subscribers on Subscribestar, and you know who you are, but that's the two different ways that I have that are the best ways to support the show on a monthly ongoing basis. If you would help me out, I certainly would appreciate that. Not very many people listen to what I'm saying, so I'll just mention it again. And then the store, I mentioned last week that, got lots of products on here and different things that I have kind of built and put into the store here. And that's a good way for a one-off type of method to support the show as well. We've got stickers and hats and mugs and all kinds of stuff here on the Diamond Report store. And I mentioned last week that it'll probably keep it around for about a year. I've got about a year left on my contract, if you want to call it that, with them. So we'll see where we're at. I would like to keep the store. I mean, it needs to pay for itself. Otherwise, I'm just wasting money. So I just wanted to mention that as far as the store and the products that are there. Got End Times Dates products and Diamond Report and Conspiracy Analyst products. The Conspiracy Analyst is just something that I came up with and thought it was kind of cool. It's got the Diamond Report URL on there as well. So There you go. And then take it to the Lord in prayer, end times dates on YouTube, which many of you guys are already on there, but help me by following and liking videos on there. I do have the new Truth Hunters Show website promo. We'll close the show with that tonight as well in just a minute. It's getting kind of late. So we'll do that and hopefully get you guys to sign up for free on Truth Hunters as well. And make sure you're following along on Rumble. And if you're not on Rumble, then maybe you're on BitChute. If you're not on BitChute, then maybe you're on Brighteon. I'm in all those places. Also on Facebook. So still got a profile there, although I don't post much on Facebook anymore because I am censored an awful lot on there. And I know people say that, but I really am. I try and post stuff and almost nobody sees it. So I know it's not just me. Many people are having that same issue on Facebook. It just gets completely shadow banned and basically dropped from people's feeds. But a lot of people are experiencing that same issue. So, and then this is the band group, and Miss Emily posted the links in chat already, so feel free to join the group. We had another person join earlier today. I let them in, and yeah, we look forward to meeting you guys in the band group. It's a good way to go. And then also on Subscribestar, if you do happen to be on there, there are some different tiers here with some other options, including group chats and also like Zoom calls and ways to stay in touch if you guys are interested in that. And again, I really appreciate any of the support that I could get for the show. And wanted to mention Truth Hunters, if you guys missed the beginning of the show, we're trying to mention the Truth Hunters Show website that I have with my good friend Miss Lynn Liaz, and we're promoting that because we're putting both of our content on this same site, so you can go there and sign up for free and access the info that we're both putting out. Primarily, it's really probably more her information than mine, although I'm posting video stuff on there as well. So feel free to sign up for free on there. We've got a special video here to close the show on that about subscribing and then how to do that. It's actually really easy. So hope you guys have a blessed week this week. The next show is going to be, what is it? The 11th? So May 11th will be the next show, 10 p.m. Central Time, and hope to see you guys then. And hope you guys have a blessed week this week. We'll see what happens with the whole unfolding of potential earthquakes and potential wars and rumors of wars and all of that stuff. But it's unfolding just like they might have mentioned in that book called The Bible. And yeah, it's pretty amazing how things are unfolding and how we are seeing it right before our very eyes. So yeah, thank you guys. We'll be back here again in a week, and we'll do it all again then. And I look forward to seeing you guys then. So in the meantime, stay tuned for this short little less than 1 minute video on the Truth Hunters and what you could do to help us out. So here it is, and hope you guys have a blessed week this week. Love you all, and I'll talk to you again real soon. For unique perspectives in Christian truth and one-of-a-kind Bible studies, please visit our website, truthhuntershow.com. Help us get around big tech censorship on YouTube, Facebook, and others by subscribing to our website. You can do so by entering your email address right here and click subscribe. Another option is click the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner, and you'll get a pop-up where you can enter your email address here and click subscribe. To support the work of the Truth Hunters, simply scroll down the page and you'll see ways that you can contribute by PayPal, Patreon, and Venmo. Thank you very much.